Hello guys, welcome to Saiyan What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Goku mastered every key type? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Blank. Chapter 1. The Scroll of 15 Flames. The Tournament of Power had changed everything. Goku stood at the edge of Xeno's celestial garden, watching prismatic butterflies dance between flowers that changed color with each passing breeze. He flexed his fingers, feeling the familiar hum of energy coursing through his body, yet something felt different. Ever since achieving Ultra Instinct during that final battle with Jiren, his ki had behaved strangely, pulsing with unfamiliar rhythms that sometimes woke him in the dead of night. Still admiring the view, Son Goku, the Grand Priest, materialized beside him, his perpetual smile revealing nothing. Goku scratched the back of his head. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But honestly, I've been feeling weird lately. My energies, doing things. He Grand Priest's eyes glimmered with something that might have been amusement or concern. I suspected this might happen. Come with me. They walked through a series of impossible archways that seemed to fold space around them, each step carrying them miles beyond where physics should allow. The Grand Priest waved a hand, revealing a hidden door that definitely hadn't existed moments before. The Archives of Eternity, he announced as they entered a vast circular chamber whose walls were lined with scrolls that glowed with inner light. Few mortals have ever set foot here. At the center of He room sat a pedestal carved from what appeared to be solidified starlight. Upon it rested an ancient scroll bound with 15 different colored ribbons, each shimmering with power that made Goku's skin tingle. What you're feeling, Son Goku, is resonance, the Grand Priest explained, approaching the pedestal. When you achieved Ultra Instinct, you unconsciously tapped into energies beyond simple ki. This scroll contains knowledge of the 15 fundamental energy types that form the building blocks of our multiverse. Goku approached cautiously. 15 types. I thought ki was just ki. He Grand Priest untied the first ribbon, a familiar white color that reminded Goku of his own aura. What you call ki is merely primal ki, the basic life energy all fighters use. But there are 14 others, each with unique properties and mastery requirements. He unrolled the scroll partially, revealing intricate diagrams and text in a language Goku couldn't comprehend. Yet somehow, the patterns seemed familiar, as if they matched rhythms already flowing through his blood. There is God Ki, which divine beings possess. You've already touched this through your Super Saiyan Blue transformation. Goku nodded. And Ultra Instinct. That feels completely different. That's Void Ki, the energy of nothingness, allowing movement without thought. The Grand Priest continued unrolling the scroll. Then there's Spirit Ki, which you've wielded through your Spirit Bomb technique, drawing from the collective energy of living beings. Destruction Ki powers the Hakai technique used by gods of destruction, while Creation Ki is wielded by Supreme Kais. Goku's eyes widened as the Grand Priest continued naming the remaining types: Time Ki, Dimensional Ki, Elemental Ki, Emotional Ki, Soul Ki, Shadow Ki, Harmonic Ki, Chaos Ki, and finally, Primordial Ki, the original energy of creation. Throughout all recorded history, the Grand Priest concluded, rolling the scroll closed, no single being has mastered all 15 forms. Each requires not just physical training, but profound spiritual, emotional, and mental evolution. Goku's heart raced with excitement, the ultimate challenge. But it's possible, someone could master them all. The Grand Priest studied him with ancient eyes. Theoretically, though many believe it would destroy the mortal vessel attempting to contain such power. A pause. There is, however, a prophecy. Before he could continue, the chamber doors burst open. A tall figure strode in, a woman with midnight blue hair streaked with silver, wearing armor unlike anything Goku had seen. Her eyes shifted color like moving clouds, and she carried herself with unmistakable authority. Grand Priest, she said, voice crisp with barely contained urgency. The council demands your presence. Her gaze cut to Goku, narrowing with suspicion. What is a mortal doing in the archives? Lyra of the Time Patrol, the Grand Priest acknowledged with a bow. This is Son Goku of Universe 7, victor of the Tournament of Power. Lyra's shifting eyes widened slightly. The Ultra Instinct wielder. It wasn't a question. That explains the temporal disturbances we've been monitoring. Goku extended a hand in greeting. Nice to meet you. What's a time patrol? She ignored his hand. We maintain the integrity of timelines across the multiverse. Your recent power fluctuations have been creating ripples through the chronological fabric. Her gaze moved to the scroll on the pedestal, and genuine alarm crossed her face. You showed him the 15 Flames scroll. That knowledge is restricted even to most deities. Circumstances are evolving, the Grand Priest replied cryptically. I must attend to the council. Perhaps you could escort our guest back to the reception area. Before Lyra could protest, the Grand Priest vanished, leaving them alone in the vast archive. So, Goku began. Don't. Lyra cut him off, her voice sharp as a blade. Whatever you're thinking about those key types, forget it. Mortals weren't meant to wield such power. Goku tilted his head, studying her. But you're not exactly against the idea, are you? Your energy feels strange, kinda like mine has been lately. Surprise flashed across her face. You can sense that. She composed herself quickly. I wield time ki. It's my duty and birthright as a temporal guardian. Could you teach me? The question burst from him naturally. Excitement overriding caution. Lyra's laugh was cold. Impossible. Time ki requires decades of training, and that's for those naturally attuned to it. For others, I'm a quick learner. Goku's grin was challenging but genuine. Something in his expression made her pause. She studied him with those shifting eyes, seeming to look beyond his physical form. You're serious, she finally said, voice softer. You genuinely believe you could master multiple key types? Goku shrugged. Won't know until I try, right? Wrong. Her voice hardened again. Failed attempts have destroyed entire realities. This isn't a tournament with Super Dragon Balls as a prize. This is. A tremor shook the archive, scrolls rattling in their alcoves. Lyra's head snapped up, eyes widening. That's not possible, she whispered. The archives exist outside conventional space-time. Nothing should be able to. Another tremor, stronger this time. Goku instinctively moved into a fighting stance, energy gathering around his fists. Something's coming through, Lyra said, pulling a silver device from her armor. She tapped it, projecting a holographic display that showed fracturing patterns spreading across what looked like a map of reality itself. A temporal incursion, directly targeting the archives. The air in the center of the chamber began to distort, space folding in on its elf-like paper being crumpled by invisible hands. Darkness seeped through the folds, not simple absence of light, but something actively malevolent. What is that? Goku asked, feeling his ki react violently to the intrusion. Lyra drew two curved blades that glowed with azure energy. Void wraiths, entities from between realities. They feed on energy, especially concentrated forms like these scrolls. The darkness coalesced into three humanoid figures with elongated limbs and faces like shattered mirrors, each reflection showing something different. They moved with unnatural fluidity, as if not fully committed to three-dimensional space. Goku launched forward without hesitation, throwing a punch infused with ki, only to watch his fist pass through the nearest wraith as if it were smoke. The creature's arm elongated impossibly, striking back with fingers that left freezing trails across his skin. Physical attacks won't work, Lyra shouted, her blades carving glowing arcs that seemed to momentarily solidify the creatures. They exist partially in multiple timelines. Goku fell back, reassessing. These weren't opponents he could overwhelm with strength alone. He closed his eyes, focusing inward to the strange new rhythms in his ki. The scroll showed 15 patterns. If these creatures exist across timelines. He reached for the familiar sensation of Ultra Instinct, the void ki the Grand Priest had mentioned. Instead of allowing it to take over completely, he consciously directed it, seeking to match the wraith's multi-dimensional existence. His aura shifted, taking on a silvery, purple tinge unlike his usual white Ultra Instinct glow. When he opened his eyes, the world looked different. The wraiths now appeared solid, trailing ghost-like afterimages that showed their position across multiple timelines simultaneously. How are you doing that? Lyra gasped, momentarily distracted. Goku didn't answer, focusing entirely on the battle. He stepped forward, or rather, he existed forward. his consciousness expanding beyond conventional movement. His fist connected with the nearest wraith, energy patterns aligning perfectly with its own fluid existence. The creature shrieked in a language without sound as Goku's strike disrupted its temporal cohesion. It collapsed inward, imploding into a singularity before disappearing entirely. The remaining wraiths recoiled, their mirror faces reflecting surprise and fear. They began to retreat toward their dimensional tear, but Goku was already moving. Kamehameha. The familiar blue energy beam erupted from his hands, but transformed mid-flight, splitting into multiple chromatically shifted versions of itself that struck the wraiths across their various timeline positions simultaneously. The creatures dissolved, and the tier began to close, but not before something else began emerging, a massive clawed hand reaching through from some unimaginable elsewhere. Lyra moved with blinding speed, her blades tracing complex patterns in the air. Temporal seal, she called out, azure energy spiraling from her weapons to form a barrier around the tier. The hand withdrew with an angry howl that seemed to echo from multiple points in time simultaneously. And the tier sealed itself with a sound like reality catching its breath. Silence fell over the archive. Goku's unusual aura faded as he let the strange energy subside, leaving him momentarily lightheaded. Lyra stared at him, her time-shifting eyes wide with disbelief. That was, you manipulated Void Ki and Time Ki simultaneously. Without training, she sheathed her blades slowly. That should be impossible. Goku rolled his shoulders, feeling strangely energized despite the exertion. It just felt right, like the energy was showing me how to use it. Natural affinity exists, but not like this. She approached him cautiously. The prophecy. What prophecy? Goku asked. The Grand Priest mentioned something before you arrived. Lyra seemed to battle with herself before answering. There's an ancient prediction about a being who would master all 15 key types, a nexus point in the multiverse who would either bring ultimate harmony or catastrophic destruction. Her eyes narrowed. The Council of Observers has monitored potential candidates for eons, but none have shown the capacity to truly integrate more than 3 or 4 types. Until now, Goku suggested. Perhaps. She studied him intently. But the prophecy also warns that such power could tear apart the fabric of reality if wielded incorrectly. The Council would consider you an existential threat. I just want to get stronger. Goku said honestly. I've never been interested in destroying anything. Intentions matter less than consequences at this scale. Lyra's expression softened slightly. But I must admit, your handling of the Void Wraiths was impressive. Before Goku could respond, another figure materialized in the archive. A petite woman with kaleidoscope eyes that shifted through geometric patterns. Intricate markings covered her exposed arms, pulsing gently within her light. Temporal Guardian Lyra, the newcomer said, her voice melodious and precise. The energy flew. Situations were. She stopped abruptly upon noticing Goku. Oh, a visitor with multi-resonant key patterns. Fascinating. She approached without hesitation, producing a crystal instrument that she waved around Goku's form. Harmonic concordance across at least 3 primary frequency bands. I've never observed such integration in a living subject. Vera, Lyra said with a sigh that suggested long familiarity, this is Son Goku. He's not a research specimen. Of course not, Vera agreed without looking up from her instrument. He's much more interesting. These energy signatures suggest spontane, cross resonance between typically incompatible key wavelengths. She finally looked at Goku directly, her kaleidoscope eyes spinning with excitement. How does it feel when you transition between types? Is there resistance or natural flow? Do you experience synesthetic effects? Goku blinked, overwhelmed by the barrage of questions. Vera is our key scholar, Lyra explained. Last keeper of the ancient knowledge about the 15 key types. And apparently forgetting her manners. Oh, Vera stepped back, composing herself. My apologies. I am Vera of the Harmonic Archive, formerly of Universe 14 before its unfortunate collapse. She offered a formal bow. Your energy patterns are the most remarkable I've encountered in 3,247 years of research. Thanks, Goku replied, returning the bow. I'm still figuring out what's happening myself. Vera's eyes lit up. Then you require education. I have extensive theoretical models on multi-resonant key integration. She turned to Lyra. E-Council would want me to document this phenomenon, correct? Lyra frowned. The Council would more likely want him contained or neutralized. Neutralized. Goku raised an eyebrow. Destroyed. Lyra clarified bluntly. Potential nexus points are considered too dangerous to allow their development. That's not happening, Goku said, his voice suddenly hard, power flaring unconsciously around him. Obviously not, Vera interjected. Stepping between them. The Archive Concordat requires study before intervention. Proper protocols must be followed. Lyra's expression suggested she found such protocols frustrating. But she nodded reluctantly. The Temporal Academy would be the appropriate location for evaluation. I can establish a contained chronological bubble for observation and initial testing. Perfect. Vera clapped her hands together. I'll prepare the harmonic resonance chambers and calibrate the frequency modulators for Saiyan physiology. Goku looked between them. So, you're going to help me understand these key types. We're going to study you, Lyra corrected. What happens after depends on the results. And on the Council's decision, Vera added, her enthusiasm dimming slightly. Though Kronos has been rather absolute in his interpretations of the prophecy lately. Kronos? Goku asked. Master of Time Key and head of the Council of Observers, Lyra explained. He's spent millennia preventing potential nexus points from fully manifesting. Preventing how? Goku asked, though he suspected the answer. Lyra met his gaze evenly. By whatever means necessary. A tense silence fell between them. Broken when the Grand Priest reappeared in the chamber. I see introductions have been made, he observed mildly. The Council has requested Son Goku be brought to the Temporal Academy for evaluation. Lyra nodded stiffly. We were just discussing that arrangement. The Grand Priest turned to Goku. This path will not be easy. The mastery of even one additional key type beyond your current abilities would require extraordinary discipline and transformation. Attempting all 15, he left the sentence unfinished. When have I ever backed down from a challenge? Goku grinned, the familiar excitement of facing a seemingly impossible obstacle thrumming through him. Indeed. The Grand Priest's smile revealed nothing of his thoughts. Lyra and Vera will escort you to the academy. I've arranged for your friends to be informed of your extended training journey. Goku felt a momentary pang at the thought of Vegeta's reaction to being left behind, but this wasn't a path they could walk together, at least not yet. I'm ready, he said simply. The journey to the Temporal Academy defied conventional description. Lyra opened what she called a chronologue. Ical corridor, a pathway between moments that existed outside normal time-space. Walking through it felt like moving through layers of reality, each step bringing whispers of might have beens and never wheres. This is incredible, Goku marveled, watching phantom versions of familiar events play out in the corridor walls, some he recognized, others featuring versions of himself making different choices. The time stream contains infinite possibilities, Vera explained, her kaleidoscope eyes reflecting the phantom images. Every decision creates branching realities. Most remain theoretical unless sufficient energy coalesces to manifest them fully. Which is why nexus points are dangerous, Lyra added grimly. They can inadvertently solidify theoretical timelines, causing paradoxical overlaps. The corridor opened into a vast complex that seemed built from crystallized time itself. Structures twisted in geometrically impossible ways, some parts moving at different temporal rates than others. Beings of various species moved throughout, some appearing solid, others semi-transparent, as if not fully committed to the present moment. Welcome to the Temporal Academy, Lyra announced. The Premier Institution for Chronological Studies and Key Theory in the Multiverse. It exists in a pocket dimension between conventional realities, Vera added. The perfect controlled environment for your evaluation. Goku sensed the eyes of numerous Academy residents on him as they crossed the central courtyard. Some gazes held curiosity, others wariness or outright hostility. Word travels fast, he observed. Time is relative here, Lyra replied with a hint of amusement. News of your arrival preceded you, literally. They led him to a domed building near the Academy's center. Inside, circular chambers lined the walls, each glowing with different colored energy. The Resonance Pavilion, Vera explained, her voice taking on reverent tones. Each chamber is attuned to one of the 15 key types. We'll begin by establishing your baseline affinities. I'll inform Kronos of your arrival, Lyra said, turning to leave. Vera, remember the protocols. Of course, Vera waved dismissively, already absorbed in adjusting instruments around the first chamber. When Lyra had gone, Goku turned to Vera. She doesn't seem to like me much. Lyra carries heavy burdens, Vera replied without looking up from her work. She was the sole survivor when her entire timeline collapsed, the result of a nexus point who lost control of their growing power. That's terrible, Goku said softly. Indeed, Kronos found her amidst the temporal debris and trained her personally. She's been his most loyal guardian ever since. Vera finished her adjustments and turned to Goku. But she's also a seeker of truth. If you prove the prophecy's positive interpretation is possible, she may become your strongest ally. And this Kronos, will he give me a fair chance? Vera's kaleidoscope eyes spun slowly. Kronos has seen civilizations rise and fall. He's prevented multiversal collapse 17 times through decisive intervention. Fairness is not his primary concern. Before Goku could respond, the chamber door opened, revealing another woman, muscular, with flame-red hair styled in an undercut and tribal markings across her shoulders. So this is the anomaly everyone's whispering about. The newcomer circled Goku, assessing him with open curiosity. Doesn't look like multiversal destruction waiting to happen. Kenna, Vera brightened. Perfect timing. Son Goku, this is Kenna of Universe 11. Our foremost specialist in elemental ki. Kenna extended a hand that radiated intense heat. When Goku took it without flinching, she grinned appreciatively. Good tolerance, she noted. Most Chi beings can't handle direct contact with my natural aura. I've trained in some pretty extreme conditions, Goku replied, returning her firm grip with equal pressure. Clearly, Kenna released his hand, still studying him. Vera, the preliminary scans are showing unusual results. Kronos wants a full elemental stress test. Already, Vera frowned. We haven't even established baseline resonance patterns. Orders from above, Kenna shrugged, her eyes still on Goku. Unless our guest isn't up for it. The challenge in her voice was unmistakable. Goku felt his Saiyan blood respond instinctively. I'm always ready for a good test, he said, matching her intensity. Kenna's grin widened, revealing slightly pointed canines. Excellent. Elemental chamber, 10 minutes. She turned to leave, then glanced back over her shoulder. Fair warning, I don't hold back. Not even for multiversal anomalies. After she'd gone, Goku turned to Vera. What's an elemental stress test? Vera's expression was troubled. A high-intensity evaluation of your ability to withstand and potentially manipulate elemental ki. It's usually conducted after weeks of preparation. She began rapidly adjusting her instruments. Kronos is accelerating the protocols. That's concerning. You think it's some kind of trap? Not exactly. More likely he's hoping to prove you lack the capacity for multi-resonant integration by overwhelming your systems. She finished her adjustments and faced him directly. The test is legitimate, but extremely demanding. Failure could damage your key pathways permanently. Goku nodded, understanding the stakes. Then I won't fail. The elemental chamber was larger than the others, its interior a perfect sphere lined with crystals of varying colors. Kenna stood at the center, now, dressed in form-fitting armor that left her marked shoulders exposed. The tribal patterns glowed with inner fire. Vera led Goku to an entry point, attaching small sensor discs to his temples and chest. These will monitor your energy responses. Try to remain centered regardless of what happens. That bad, huh? Goku asked lightly. Vera's kaleidoscope eyes spun in what might have been concern. Elemental ki is volatile even for specialists. Kenna is particularly intense in her testing methods. Goku stepped into the chamber, feeling the air immediately change, becoming charged with potentiality. As if the fundamental forces of nature were holding their breath. Welcome to my playground, Kenna called from the center. The rules are simple. I channel, you endure. If you can match or counter any element, do so. If not, simply withstand it until I move to the next phase. Goku moved to stand opposite her. Sounds straightforward enough. We'll see. Kenna's eyes gleamed with anticipation. Most candidates don't make it past the third element. Ready. Without waiting for his response, she thrust her hands forward. The air between them solidified into razor-sharp wind blades that sliced toward Goku from multiple angles. He dodged the first volley, but the blades changed direction midair, hunting him with unnatural precision. Realizing evasion wasn't the point, Goku stood his ground, channeling his ki into a protective aura. The wind blades struck his energy field, creating a shrieking cacophony as air fought against ki. Goku gritted his teeth, feeling the pressure increase as Kenna intensified her assault. Air is the gentlest element, she called over the howling wind. Let's add some weight. The chamber floor rippled and rose, stone spikes erupting around Goku's feet. As he leapt to avoid them, the very gravity of the room intensified, pulling him down with crushing force. Earth element, he realized, adjusting his energy to counter the increased gravity. It reminded him of his early training with King Kai, but magnitudes more intense. Kenna nodded approvingly as he remained standing under pressure that would have crushed most beings. Good adaptation. Now let's heat things up. Fire erupted from her tribal markings, coalescing into a serpentine dragon that circled the chamber before diving straight for Goku. The heat was beyond anything natural, closer to the core of a star than conventional flame. Goku's instinct was to counter with energy, but he remembered Vera's words about resonance. Instead of fighting fire with force, he reached for something deeper, the feeling he'd experienced briefly in the archive. His aura shifted, taking on a reddish tinge as he aligned his ki with the fire's fundamental pattern. The flame dragon struck him directly, but instead of burning, it flowed around and through him, its energy adding to his own rather than opposing it. Kenna's eyes widened in genuine surprise. You're not just enduring, you're harmonizing. Her voice held newfound respect. Let's see how you handle water. The chamber temperature plummeted as moisture condensed from the air, forming pressurized water jets that struck from all directions simultaneously. The cold was bone deep, designed to slow molecular movement and dull reflexes. Goku felt his muscles threatening to lock up, but again reached for that place of resonance. His aura took on a bluish quality, flowing like liquid around his form. The water jets still struck with physical force, but the numbing cold no longer affected him. Impressive adaptability, Kenna acknowledged, perspiration forming on her brow from the effort of maintaining multiple elemental manipulations. Most can align with one element at most. You're showing affinity for all four primary types. I'm just getting warmed up. Goku replied with a challenging grin. Something flashed in Kenna's eyes, respect mingled with competitive fire. Then let's move beyond the basics. She brought her hands together in a complex pattern, and the elements began to combine in unnatural ways, burning ice, solid lightning, weightless stone, and more. Each combination struck with increasing intensity, testing not Goku's strength but his ability to adapt to rapidly changing energy patterns. From outside the chamber, Vera watched with growing amazement as her instruments recorded Goku's responses. His energy's signature was shifting to match each elemental combination almost instantaneously, sometimes even anticipating the changes before they manifested. Impossible, she whispered, kaleidoscope eyes spinning rapidly. He's demonstrating fifth-level resonance adaptation without any formal training. She became aware of another presence beside her. Lyra, returned from her meeting with Kronos. Is that the elemental stress test? Lyra asked, watching through the transparent chamber wall. That wasn't scheduled until Kronos' orders, Vera replied without looking away from her instruments. Kenna's using combinations that would typically be reserved for final evaluations. Lyra's time-shifting eyes narrowed as she observed Goku moving through the elemental onslaught with increasing confidence. He's not just surviving it. He's mastering it. Inside the chamber, Kenna had escalated to her most demanding combinations, contradictory elemental forces that should have torn any being apart with their opposing energies. Final phase, she called, her voice strained from the extended exertion. The tribal markings on her shoulders now blazed with multicolored light as she channeled all four primary elements simultaneously. The chamber became a maelstrom of elemental chaos, a miniature apocalypse of fire, earth, air, and water in their most extreme forms. The sensor discs on Goku's body were incinerating from the sheer energy output. Instead of continuing to adapt to each element individually, Goku closed his eyes, reaching for the center of the storm. If each key type had its own resonance pattern, then somewhere there must be a pattern that encompassed them all. His consciousness expanded outward, perceiving the elemental energies not as separate forces but as variations of a single underlying rhythm. His aura shifted once more, taking on a crystalline quality that reflected prismatic light. When he opened his eyes, time seemed to slow. He could see the complex patterns of energy flowing through Kenna's form. The way each element expressed a different aspect of the same fundamental power. With perfect clarity, he reached out, not physically, but with his ki, and touched the confluence point where all elements balanced. The chaotic storm surrounding him suddenly stilled. The opposing elements didn't cease to exist but instead arranged themselves in harmonious orbits around Goku's form. No longer fighting but complementing each other. Kenna gasped, her arms dropping in shock. You harmonized the elemental chaos. She staggered slightly, the extended channeling having drained her considerably. That's not just resonance adaptation, that's true elemental mastery. The chamber systems automatically powered down, the test having reached its natural conclusion. As the elemental energies dissipated, Goku took a deep breath, feeling strangely invigorated despite the intensity of the challenge. The chamber door opened to reveal Vera and Lyra, both watching him with expressions of disbelief. The instruments overloaded, Vera said, her voice hushed with awe. Your energy patterns achieved perfect harmonic convergence across all elemental frequencies simultaneously. The oracle models suggested that was impossible without decades of specialized training. Lyra's expression was harder to read, somewhere between suspicion and reluctant admiration. Kronos will want to see these results immediately. I'm sure he will, came a new voice from behind them. They turned to find a tall, imposing figure standing in the doorway. His skin was deep obsidian, contrasting with hair like spun silver that flowed down his back. His eyes were the most striking feature, entirely white except for pupils shaped like hourglasses that rotated slowly. Kronos, Lyra acknowledged with a formal bow. Guardian Lyra, Scholar Vera, Elemental Kenna. The newcomer's voice resonated with subtle layers, as if multiple versions of himself were speaking in perfect unison. His gaze fixed on Goku. And Son Goku of Universe 7. The anomaly. Goku met the Time Master's gaze evenly. I prefer Goku to anomaly. A smile that revealed nothing touched Kronos' lips. Names are temporal constructs, ultimately meaningless across the grand scale. He glided forward with unnatural smoothness. What matters is potential, and the choices made with it. My choice is to learn, Goku said simply. To master these key types without causing harm. Noble intentions, Kronos replied, circling Goku slowly. History is littered with the temporal debris of noble intentions gone awry. Give him a chance, Kronos, Kenna interjected. Moving to stand beside Goku. You saw what he did in there. That wasn't just power, it was control. Elementary control, Kronos corrected. A promising beginning, nothing more. His hourglass pupils rotated faster. But potential cuts both ways. The greater the height, the more catastrophic the fall. The prophecy doesn't necessarily end in destruction, Vera pointed out cautiously. The harmonic interpretation suggests transcendence and balance are equally possible outcomes. A minority interpretation, Kronos dismissed. Based on incomplete data. Then let us complete the data. Lyra suggested, surprising everyone. Full evaluation protocols, proper documentation. If Son Goku truly is a nexus point, we should understand everything about his cap. Abilities before making irreversible decisions. Kronos studied her with those unnerving eyes. You surprise me, Guardian. Given your history, I expected you to advocate for immediate neutralization. My history taught me the cost of acting without complete information, Lyra replied evenly. If he is what we fear, better to discover it in controlled conditions. A tense silence followed as Kronos seemed to contemplate multiple timelines simultaneously. Finally, he nodded once. 3 days, he declared. A full evaluation cycle under maximum security protocols. After which, the council will render judgment. He fixed Goku with his strange gaze. I advise you to demonstrate not just your capability for power, Son Goku, but your capacity for wisdom. The former without the latter has ended worlds. With that ominous warning, he turned and glided from the chamber, reality seeming to bend subtly around him as he passed. When he had gone, Goku released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Pleasant guy, Kenna snorted with laughter. Kronos has forgotten more about pleasantness than most beings will ever know. Time masters tend toward the dramatic, side effect of seeing too many apocalypses. 3 days isn't much, Vera fretted, already tapping calculations into her instruments. A proper evaluation cycle should take at least a month. It's better than immediate neutralization, Lyra pointed out. She turned to Goku, her time-shifting eyes serious. You should understand what you're facing. Kronos didn't become head observer by being merciful or taking chances. If you show any sign of instability during evaluation. I get it, Goku interrupted. This isn't my first impossible challenge with the fate of everything on the line. Perhaps not, Lyra acknowledged. But it may be the first where raw power and fighting spirit aren't enough. Vera glanced at her instruments. We should begin immediately. I've prepared the primary resonance chamber for primal key baseline establishment. Kenna stretched her arms above her head, tribal markings still glowing faintly. I could use a regeneration cycle after that workout. I'll catch up with you later. She gave Goku an appraising look. You're full of surprises, Saiyan. I look forward to seeing what else you can do. As she left, Goku noticed a slight smile tugging at Lyra's lips. What? Kenna doesn't impress easily, Lyra explained. The last candidate who attempted her elemental test is still recovering, 3 years later. Vera led them through a series of corridors to another chamber, this one simpler than the elemental room. Its walls were pure white, with a single meditation platform at the center. Primal key is your foundation, Vera explained as she prepared the chamber. Before attempting integration with other types, we must establish your natural baseline patterns. I've been using ki my whole life, Goku pointed out. Isn't that established already? Using isn't understanding, Lyra replied. Most fighters manipulate ki instinctively, without comprehending its fundamental nature. Vera nodded enthusiastically. Precisely. Imagine building a house without knowing how bricks are made. You might construct something functional, but without understanding the materials, you can't innovate beyond established patterns. An innovation is what separates masters from mere practitioners, Lyra added. Your instinctive adaptability is remarkable, but true mastery requires conscious comprehension. Goku absorbed their words thoughtfully. Throughout his life, he had indeed approached ki as a tool rather than a subject of study. Even his most advanced techniques came from intuition and practice rather than theoretical understanding. So I need to understand ki, not just use it, he summarized. Exactly. Vera beamed at him. Each ki type has its own fundamental frequency, its own consciousness, if you will. To master it, you must enter into dialogue with that consciousness. Lyra's expression suggested she found Vera's explanation overly mystical, but she didn't contradict her. The process can be transformative, Lyra warned. Each ki type resonates with different aspects of consciousness. As you integrate them, your perceptions, even your personality may shift. Is that why you're so concerned about nexus points? Goku asked. Because they change too much. Partially, Lyra admitted. The most dangerous cases are those who lose their core identity amidst the transformations, becoming something neither mortal nor divine, with powers they no longer fully control or understand. The implications weren't lost on Goku. His journey had always been about becoming stronger, but this was different, not just increasing power, but fundamentally changing the nature of his consciousness. I'm ready, he said, moving to the meditation platform. Vera activated the chamber systems, creating a field that isolated them from external energies. Begin by manifesting your ki as you normally would. Hold nothing back. We need to see your full baseline capacity. Goku nodded, centering himself. He started with his base form, allowing his white aura to flow naturally around him. Then, step by step, he moved through his transformations. Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, and finally, the silvery glow of Ultra Instinct. Vera's instruments recorded each phase, her kaleidoscope eyes spinning with excitement as the readings flowed across her screens. Extraordinary. Each transformation represents a harmonic progression along the fundamental frequency. The mathematical precision is focus, Vera, Lyra reminded her gently. Right, yes. Vera adjusted several controls. Now, Son Goku, I want you to power down completely. Return to your base state. Then close your eyes and turn your attention inward. Don't manifest ki externally. Instead, observe it as it exists within you. Goku complied, allowing his transformations to fade away. He closed his eyes, turning his awareness inward as instructed. At first, he saw only darkness, felt only the familiar hum of energy flowing through his body. Look deeper, Vera's voice guided him. Beyond the sensation, beyond the power. What is ki before you shape it? What is its essence? Goku concentrated, pushing his awareness beyond his usual perception. Gradually, something began to take form in his mind's eye, not the familiar sensation of energy, but something more fundamental. Patterns within patterns, rhythms within rhythms, a dance of potentiality that existed before manifestation. I see, vibrations, he said slowly, not just energy, but information. Like everything is made of tiny vibrating strings, each with its own song. Yes, Vera's voice was tinged with excitement. That's the fundamental resonance pattern. The key matrix that underlies all energy manifestation. As Goku focused on these patterns, something unexpected happened. His consciousness seemed to expand beyond his physical form, perceiving the vibrations not just within himself but in everything around him. The chamber, the instruments, even Vera and Lyra themselves. He could see the complex symphony of energy that constituted reality itself. His aura is changing, he heard Lyra say, her voice sounding distant. That's not standard primal ki manifestation. It's harmonic integration. Vera's voice was filled with wonder. He's not just observing the patterns, he's synchronizing with them. Goku barely registered their words, absorbed in this new perception. The universe wasn't chi made of separate parts as he'd always thought, but a single unified field of vibrating energy, differentiated only by pattern and frequency. And if everything shared this fundamental nature, then ki boundaries between different ki types were merely variations in song, not truly separate systems. With this realization, something shifted deep within him. His aura manifested without conscious effort, not the familiar white or blue or silver, but a crystalline luminescence that seemed to contain all colors simultaneously. Impossible, Lyra whispered. He's achieving partial resonance with multiple ki types simultaneously, without specific training in each. Goku opened his eyes, seeing the world differently. Energy patterns were visible around everything. Vera's body pulsed with harmonious geometric configurations, while Lyra's form trailed temporal echoes, each moment of her existence simultaneously present in fading layers. I can see everything, he said, his voice reflecting wonder. It's all connected. The different ki types aren't separate, they're aspects of the same fundamental energy, just vibrating at different frequencies. Vera was frantically recording readings, her kaleidoscope eyes spinning almost too fast to track. This confirms the unified resonance theory. Ki types aren't distinct energy forms but manifestations of a single underlying field. The ancient texts were right. Lyra's expression was more guarded, but Goku could now see the complex emotions rippling through her temporal aura. Caution, yes, but also hope and a buried excitement she was trying to suppress. Be careful, she warned. Expanded perception can be overwhelming. Many have lost themselves in the patterns. Goku nodded, understanding the danger. With deliberate focus, he began drawing his awareness back, not shutting down the expanded perception entirely but containing it within manageable parameters. The crystalline aura faded, though he could still feel the new understanding resonating within him. That was incredible, he said simply. I've never experienced anything like it. Few have, Vera confirmed, still recording data. Most beings require years of specialized training to achieve even partial perceptual expansion. You've just spontaneously manifested fifth-level consciousness integration in your first session, which will only increase Kronos' concerns, Lyra pointed out. Accelerated development patterns are historically associated with instability, or with true nexus potential, Vera countered. The prophecy speaks of natural affinity across all frequency bands. Goku stood from the meditation platform, feeling somehow both energized and centered. So what's next? Before either could answer, a deep rumbling shook the academy, sending instruments crashing to the floor. Emergency lights activated, bathing the chamber in pulsing red. That's a dimensional breach alert, Lyra said, instantly alert. She touched a communication device at her wrist. Guardian Lyra requesting status report. The response came through with static interference. Multiple breaches detected. Void entities approaching the Central Academy complex. All personnel to defensive positions. More void wraiths. Goku asked, already moving toward the door. Something worse, Lyra replied grimly. Wraiths are scouts. This sounds like a full collective incursion. She drew her time blades. Their azure energy flaring to life. Vera, secure the resonance data and activate the archive protections. Son Goku, you should help, he finished for her. Just point me in the right direction. A fleeting smile crossed Lyra's face. Central courtyard. That's where they'll concentrate their attack. Her expression turned serious again. But understand, these aren't opponents. You can defeat through conventional combat. They exist partially outside normal reality. Goku nodded. I'll remember the lesson from earlier. Match their frequency, then disrupt it. Theoretical und understanding and practical application are different challenges, Lyra warned as they moved swiftly through the corridors. Then I'll learn by doing, Goku replied. It's always been my best method. They emerged into chaos. The Academy's central courtyard had become a battlefield, with temporal guardians fighting against shadowy entities that made the void wraiths look simple by comparison. These Reachers shifted constantly between multiple forms, their bodies composed of what looked like shattered glass reflecting impossibilities. Kenna was already engaged in combat, her elemental energies eating barriers around younger Academy members while she hurled combinatorial attacks at the nearest entities. When she spotted Goku and Lyra, she fought her way toward them. They breached all outer defenses simultaneously, she reported. Flames dancing around her tribal markings. Coordinated attack pattern we've never seen before. The council, Lyra asked. Chronos is maintaining the primary temporal shield to prevent timeline contamination. The other observers are reinforcing dimensional boundaries. Kenna ducked as a void tendril whipped overhead. Whatever these things want, they're determined to get it. Goku didn't need to ask what that might be. He could feel the entities, attention focusing on him, their impossible forms orienting in his direction despite being engaged with other defenders. They're after me, he stated, or rather, what I might become. The Void Collective feeds on potential energy, Vera explained, having caught up with them despite Lyra's instructions. A being capable of mastering all 15 key types would be the ultimate feast. A massive entity separated from the main group, moving directly toward them. Unlike the others, this one maintained a semi-consistent form, humanoid but towering, composed of constantly shifting reflective surfaces that showed distorted images of everyone around it. Emissary class, Lyra identified, raising her blades. They rarely manifest physically. The entity stopped a few meters away, its faceted surfaces rearranging to approximate a face. When it spoke, the sound came not from the figure itself but seemed to originate from multiple points in space simultaneously. The Nexus awakens, it intoned, voice resonating with unnatural harmonics. The 15 become one. We have waited. What do you want? Goku called, stepping forward despite Lyra's cautioning hand on his arm. To consume, to incorporate, to ascend. The entity's surfaces rippled with hungry anticipation. Your potential transcends boundaries. Together we will break the final wall. Not interested, Goku replied simply. Leave these people alone and go back where you came from. The entity's approximation of a face twisted into something like amusement. Choice as illusion. The pattern is set. You will join the collective willingly or as broken fragments. It lunged forward with impossible speed, its form elongating and fracturing into dozens of crystalline shards that surrounded Goku from all directions simultaneously. Time seemed to slow as Goku accessed the expanded perception he'd discovered during meditation. He could see the complex energy patterns flowing through the entity, chaotic yet structured, vibrating at frequencies that straddled multiple realities. Instead of dodging or countering with force, Goku closed his eyes, reaching for the crystalline aura he'd manifested earlier. As the entity's fragments converged on him, his body began to glow with that same multispectral light. What's he doing? Kenna shouted, preparing to intervene. Wait, Vera held her back. He's attempting harmonic disruption. The entity's fragments struck Goku's aura and, instead of piercing or damaging it, began to vibrate discordantly. Their patterns disrupted by contact with his integrated resonance field. The creature emitted a sound beyond conventional hearing, a scream that rippled through dimensional barriers. Impossible, it pulsed, Fragments retreating and reforming. The pattern is incomplete. The nexus is unripe. I may not have mastered all 15 types yet, Goku replied, opening his eyes that now shimmered with inner light. But I understand enough to know your weakness. He stepped forward, his aura intensifying. The crystalline light extended outward in geometric patterns that matched, then countered the entity's own structure. Where their energies met, the creature's form began to dissolve, unable to maintain coherence against Goku's harmonizing influence. You cannot unmake us, the entity insisted. Though its form continued deteriorating. We are eternal. We are between. We will return when the nexus ripens. With a final dimensional shudder, the emissary collapsed inward, its fragments dissolving into motes of light that scattered across multiple planes of reality. Throughout the courtyard, the lesser entities followed suit, their connection to the physical plane severed by the emissary's defeat. Silence fell over the battlefield. The Academy defenders stared at Goku with expressions ranging from awe to fear to calculation. Kenna was the first to speak. Well, she said, extinguishing the flames around her markings. That's one way to impress the faculty. Vera rushed forward, instruments already scanning Goku's fading aura. Spontaneous harmonic integration at the 7th level. The defensive application of multi-resonant disruption fields. This data is unprecedented. Lyra sheathed her time blades slowly, her expression unreadable. The entity was right about one thing: they'll be back. The collective doesn't abandon potential food sources, especially one as powerful as you're becoming. Goku let out a long breath, feeling the expanded perception gradually settling into a more manageable awareness. The experience had been exhilarating but also sobering. The connection he'd felt to the fundamental patterns of reality brought not just power but responsibility. I need to continue training, he said firmly. Not just to get stronger, but to understand. If these void entities can track me across dimensions, I need to be prepared. Indeed. The voice came from behind them. They turned to find Chronos observing, his hourglass pupils rotating slowly as he studied Goku with new intensity. It seems our evaluation timeline has been accelerated, the Time Master said. The collective rarely emerges in such numbers. Your potential is evidently greater than even I anticipated. Is that good news or bad? Goku asked directly. That, Chronos replied, remains to be determined. He glided forward, circling Goku as he had before. Your methods against the emissary were unexpected. Not destructive force, but harmonization and disruption. Interesting choices for a warrior of your reputation. It felt right, Goku said simply. Indeed. Chronos stopped his circling. The council will convene immediately to discuss these developments. Until then, you will continue your evaluation under heightened security protocols. He turned to Lyra. Guardian, you will personally oversee his training. Scholar Vera will document all observations. Elemental Kenna will assist with practical applications. The three women nodded, though Lyra's expression suggested she had reservations about the assignment. What about you? Goku asked Chronos directly. If I'm going to understand Time Key, shouldn't I learn from its master? A ghost of a smile touched Chronos' lips. Bold request. We shall see if you earn such privilege. He turned to leave, then paused. The path you walk has no precedent, Son Goku. Even I cannot see all possible outcomes. Choose wisely with each step. With that cryptic warning, he vanished, not teleporting, but seemingly stepping sideways out of their timestream entirely. Is he always that dramatic? Goku asked. Kenna laughed. You have no idea. Try training with him for a century. Vera was already planning their next steps, muttering calculations and adjusting her instruments. We should proceed to God Key integration next, then Void Key, establishing baselines for comparison against the preliminary readings from today's spontaneous manifestations. Lyra remained quiet, her time-shifting eyes studying Goku with an intensity that suggested she was seeing more than just his present form. You have questions, Goku said to her directly. Many, she acknowledged, but one matters more than others. The prophecy speaks of choice, harmony or destruction. Which path do you truly seek, Son Goku? It was a fair question, perhaps the most important one. Goku considered it carefully before answering. I've spent my life seeking strength to protect what matters, he finally said. That hasn't changed, but this journey, it's shown me that true strength might not be what I always thought it was. He met her gaze steadily. I don't know exactly where this path leads, but I know I don't walk it to destroy. I never have. So Methy. Ing shifted in Lyra's expression. Not quite trust, but a willingness to consider possibilities beyond her fears. Then let us continue your training, she said. The collective's attack has changed everything. We have much to do in little time. As they moved back toward the training chambers, Goku felt a new resolve forming within him. The tournament of power had seemed like the ultimate challenge. But it had merely been preparation for this greater journey, one that would transform not just his power, but his very understanding of existence. Whatever came next, he would face it as he always had, with determination, courage, and the unshakable belief that limits existed to be surpassed. The true test was just beginning. Chapter 2. The Shadow Between Stars. Darkness. Not the absence of light, but something deeper, a primordial void stretching beyond comprehension. Goku floated within this nothingness, his consciousness untethered from physical form. No up, no down. No beginning, no end. On. Li awareness suspended in infinite potential. Is this death? He wondered, though the thought formed without words. Not death. Transformation. The voice, if it could be called that, resonated from everywhere and nowhere. Not sound but pure meaning, bypassing conventional senses. Who are you? Goku asked into the void. I am what you seek. I am what you fear. I am the shadow between stars. Conceptual I am. Ages flashed through Goku's awareness, 15 distinct energy patterns swirling, merging, separating in an eternal dance. Each vibrated with unique signatures yet harmonized with the others in ways his mind struggled to comprehend. The key types, he realized. They're alive, not alive as you understand it. We are the fundamental patterns upon which reality constructs itself. You have begun to hear our song. The void shifted, coalescing into a figure composed of shadow and starlight. Feminine yet ancient beyond reckoning, with eyes that contained galaxies. Few mortals perceive us directly. Few, still can channel our essence without being consumed. You stand at a precipice, Son Goku. The next steps will remake you in ways you cannot foresee. I'm not afraid, Goku responded. A sound like laughter rippled through the void. That is why we chose you. But beware, others have heard our call. The Void Collective seeks what we freely offer you. The Time Master fears what you might become. NTH. Are darker hunters moving between dimensions, drawn to your awakening. Malachi, Goku said, the name appearing in his mind without context. Yes, once our chosen, now corrupted by imbalance and hunger. He will come for what you possess. I'll be ready. Will you? The starlight figure drew closer. Power without wisdom destroys. Knowledge without compassion corrupts. Integration without identity shatters. Remember who you are, Son Goku. When you no longer recognize what you've become. The void began dissolving, reality bleeding back through fracturing darkness. Wait, Goku called. I have more questions. Find Nyx. Came the fading response. She walks the shadows between worlds. She will guide you through the darkness you must embrace. Who is? Reality snapped back with jarring intensity. Goku gasped, eyes flying open to find himself in the Temporal Academy's meditation chamber. 3 concerned faces hovered over him, Lyra, Vera, and Kenna. He's back, Kenna announced, relief evident in her voice. Vital signs stabilizing, Vera confirmed, scanning instruments hovering around Goku's prone form. Consciousness patterns reintegrating with physical structure. Lyra's time-shifting eyes studied him intently. What happened? You were in standard meditation one moment, then your entire energy signature simply vanished. Goku sat up slowly, feeling strangely disembodied, as if his consciousness hadn't fully reconnected with his physical form. I was somewhere else. Talking with something. Vera leaned forward eagerly, kaleidoscope eyes spinning. Can you describe it? Images flashed through Goku's mind. The void, the starlight figure, the dance of energy patterns. Yet words seemed hopelessly inadequate. It was like the consciousness of the key types themselves, he tried to explain. They spoke to me about transformation and danger. And someone named Nyx. Lyra and Kenna exchanged sharp glances. Nyx. Lyra's voice held unmistakable recognition. You're certain that name was mentioned? Goku nodded. The entity said I needed to find her. That she walks the shadows between worlds and would guide me through darkness I must embrace. Kenna whistled low. Well, that's troubling. Why? Who is she? Goku asked, swinging his legs over the edge of the meditation platform. Nyx is complicated, Lyra replied carefully. A shadow key assassin with a reputation for eliminating potential nexus points before they fully manifest. She works for Chronos? Goku asked, recalling the Time Master's ominous warnings. Not exactly. Kenna folded muscular arms across her chest. Nyx follows her own code. She believes in necessary darkness, that shadow is required for balance. She tests those who seek to master multiple key types. Tests how? Goku pressed. By forcing them to confront their own darkness, Lyra explained. Those who deny their shadows inevitably become consumed by them. Those who embrace darkness without being corrupted by it pass her trials. And those who fail. Kenna drew a finger across her throat. Shadow burial. Their energy patterns scattered across the void, never to reconstitute. Charming, Goku murmured, standing to test his balance. His body felt different, lighter yet somehow more substantial, as if his very atoms had been rearranged. Do you know where to find her? One doesn't find Nyx, Lyra said with a hint of exasperation. She finds you, usually at the most inconvenient moment possible. Vera, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. The real question is why fundamental consciousness RNS would manifest directly to you and specifically direct you toward a shadow key assassin. Her kaleidoscope eyes spun with calculation. Unless what? Goku prompted when she trailed off. Unless you're approaching a developmental threshold that requires shadow key integration. Vera tapped rapidly on her instruments. Your current mastery trajectory suggests you should be focusing on spirit, destruction, and creation key first. The conventional sequence isn't necessarily applicable here, Lyra pointed out. Nothing about Son Goku's development has followed normal patterns. Kenna approached Goku, studying him with narrowed eyes. You look different. I feel different, he admitted. Your cellular resonance has been permanently altered, Vera confirmed, reading her instruments. The meditation induced a quantum-level restructuring of your energy pathways. Kenna poked him experimentally in the chest. Still solid, at least. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Goku found himself smiling at her bluntness. There was something refreshingly direct about Kenna that reminded him of the straightforward fighters he'd known throughout his life. So what now? He asked. Quote, continue with the original training sequence or follow this vision. Lyra pursed her lips. Chronos ordered systematic evaluation following established protocols. Deviating based on a meditation vision would violate council directives. When has that stopped you before? Kenna challenged with a knowing grin. Something like embarrassment flashed across Lyra's face. Those were different circumstances, were they? Kenna turned to Goku. Our time guardian here has a reputation for bending rules when her instincts tell her the rulebook is wrong. Which is precisely why Chronos assigned me to this case, Lyra retorted. He knows I'll prioritize multiversal safety over protocol if necessary. Vera closed her instruments with a decisive snap. The data suggests accelerated development regardless of our approach. If fundamental consciousness patterns are directly communicating with subject Goku, our conventional methods may be insufficient. I have a better idea, came a new voice from the shadows. They turned as one to find a figure materializing from darkness that shouldn't have been deep enough to conceal anyone. A woman emerged, lithe and graceful with obsidian skin that seemed to absorb surrounding light. Silver hair cascaded down her back in complex braids interwoven with tiny crystals that reflected non-existent stars. Her piercing violet eyes assessed them with cool amusement. Nyx, Lyra acknowledged stiffly. Guardian Lyra. The newcomer inclined her head slightly. Always following rules while looking for reasons to break them. How charmingly consistent. Her gaze shifted to Goku, studying him with unsettling intensity. So you're the nexus that's causing such delightful chaos. I expected someone taller. Despite her mocking tone, Goku sensed tremendous power carefully contained within her form. Her energy signature was unlike any he'd encountered, not just dark but multi-layered, as if she existed simultaneously in multiple planes of reality. You heard my name and came running? He asked, meeting her gaze without flinching. A smile curved her lips. I've been watching you since you arrived at the Temporal Academy. The fundamental patterns rarely speak directly to mortals. When they do, I pay attention. How did you bypass the Academy's security protocols? Lyra demanded, hand moving toward her time blades. Nyx laughed, a sound like silk sliding over steel. Shadow walks between security measures just as it slips between stars, Guardian. I go where I please. Why are you here? Goku asked directly. Nyx circled him slowly, violet eyes never leaving his face. Because you've reached the precipice. The moment where conventional training becomes useless. The point where you must either transcend or falter. And you're offering to help with this transcendence. Lyra asked skeptically. I'm offering a test, Nyx corrected. One that will reveal whether he's worthy of the power he seeks. Kenna stepped forward protectively. We don't need your shadow games, assassin. Goku's already proving himself through established protocols. Is he? Nyx raised a silver eyebrow. Then why did the fundamental patterns reach out directly? Why send him to me? She stopped circling, facing Goku directly. They know what I know, that power without shadow creates imbalance. That light without darkness breeds blindness. What exactly are you proposing? Goku asked. Shadow walk training. I take you into the between, the realm where shadow has substance and form has shadow. There, you will confront aspects of yourself you've never acknowledged. Absolutely not. Lyra objected immediately. The between is in regulated space. Council protocols explicitly forbid. Council protocols are designed to maintain the status quo, Nyx interrupted. They're not designed for nexus points. They're designed to prevent them. Silence fell as her words sank in. Goku realized she had articulated something he'd instinctively sensed since arriving, that for all their talk of evaluation and understanding, Kronos and the Council ultimately feared what he represented. She's right, he said quietly. Lyra looked at him sharply. You can't seriously be considering this. Shadow walk training has driven experienced masters insane. For someone still learning to integrate multiple key types, it's suicide. Not for him, Nyx countered. He's different. The patterns have marked him. And if this is just your way of eliminating a potential threat. Kenna challenged, elemental energy gathering around her tribal markings. Nyx's violet eyes flashed. If I wanted him dead, Guardian, he would be. I serve balance, not Kronos' fears. Vera, who had been scanning Nyx surreptitiously with her instruments, finally spoke. Her energy patterns contain no deceptive harmonics. Statistical probability suggests her stated intentions are genuine, though her methods remain questionable. Thank you for the character reference, scholar, Nyx said dryly. Goku considered his options carefully. Everything within him urged movement forward, regardless of risk. Yet he recognized the legitimate concerns of his guides. What if we compromise? He suggested. Nyx conducts the shadow walk training. But you three monitor from outside. If something goes wrong, really wrong, you pull me out. Nyx shook her head. Not possible. The between permits no external interference. Once we cross the threshold, we return only when the test concludes, one way or another. Then I'll just have to make sure I pass, Goku said with characteristic determination. Lyra studied him, conflict evident in her time-shifting eyes. Kronos will see this as direct insubordination. From you, perhaps, Goku noted. I never agreed to follow council protocols. A reluctant smile tugged at Lyra's lips. True enough, she sighed. I can't stop you, can I? Would you really want to? He countered gently. If this is truly the path forward. Something unreadable passed across her face. Conk. Mixed with another emotion Goku couldn't quite identify. Be careful, she finally said. Shadow reveals truths we often prefer to keep hidden. Even from ourselves. Kenna approached, pressing something small and metallic into his palm. Elemental anchor, she explained gruffly. Might help you find your way back if things get too dark. Her fingers lingered against his momentarily, surprisingly warm. Don't get lost in there. Saiyan. Vera bustled forward with a final flurry of scans. Fascinating opportunity. Shadow Realm dimensional physics remain largely theoretical. Any observational data you can recall would be invaluable for Vera. Lyra interrupted gently. Perhaps focus on wishing him luck. The scholar blinked, kaleidoscope eyes spinning sheepishly. Oh, yes, of course. She awkwardly patted Goku's arm. Statistically speaking, Your adaptive capabilities suggest a 67.3% chance of successful integration. Much better than average. Goku couldn't help but laugh. I'll take those odds. Nyx watched this exchange with barely concealed impatience. If the farewells are complete. She extended a hand toward Goku. The shadows grow restless. With a final nod to his three mentors, Goku took Nyx's outstretched hand. Her skin felt cool to the touch, yet somehow radiated energy that resonated with something deep within him. Close your eyes, she instructed. Breathe in light, exhale shadow. Goku complied, feeling a strange sensation wash over him, as if reality were becoming less substantial with each breath. The solid floor beneath his feet began to feel permeable, gravity's hold tenuous at best. Remember, Nyx's voice came from seemingly everywhere. In the between, thought becomes form. Fear manifests as monster. Doubt becomes labyrinth. Truth is the only constant. The last thing Goku heard was Lyra's voice, unusually vulnerable. Come back to us. Then silence. Complete and absolute. When Goku opened his eyes, the world had changed fundamentally. He stood in a place that defied conventional description. Not darkness exactly, but the spaces between light. Structures formed and dissolved like smoke given momentary purpose. The ground beneath his feet was solid yet yielding. Like walking on the surface of a dream. Nyx stood beside him, her appearance transformed. Her obsidian skin now gleamed with internal light, silver hair floating weightlessly around her form. The tiny crystals woven through her braids shone like captured stars. Welcome to the between, she said, her voice resonating differently here. The realm of shadow and possibility. Goku turned slowly, taking in their surroundings. It feels alive. It is, in its fashion. Nyx moved with liquid grace, the environment responding to her presence like water acknowledging current. The between exists in the negative spaces of reality, the gaps between moments, the shadows between stars, the silences between heartbeats. It's beautiful, Goku said honestly, watching patterns form and dissolve around them. Something like surprise crossed Nyx's face. Most find it terrifying. The absence of definite form disturbs those who cling to solid reality. It reminds me of the void between universes, Goku explained. But with more purpose. Nyx studied him with renewed interest. You continue to surprise, son Goku. Perhaps the patterns chose better than I expected. She gestured toward a pathway that hadn't existed moments before. Your test begins. Follow the shadow of your true self. And how do I recognize that? Her violet eyes gleamed. That's part of the test. Without further explanation, she dissolved into the environment, not vanishing completely, but becoming one with the shifting patterns surrounding them. Goku stood alone, feeling the between pulse around him like a living thing. Ahead, countless pathways stretched into indistinct distance, each shimmering with different potential. Follow the shadow of your true self. He closed his eyes, turning inward as he had during meditation. If thought became form here, then intent should guide his path. Who was he, beneath the layers of identity he'd accumulated? Beyond the fighter, the protector, the seeker of strength. A sensation pulled at him, not quite physical, more like recognition. Opening his eyes, he saw a pathway illuminated not by light but by deeper shadow, somehow more substantial than its surroundings. He stepped forward, committing to the path. As he walked, the environment responded to his passage, revealing images in the shifting patterns around him, moments from his life, some familiar. Others forgotten or perhaps not yet experienced. Child Goku training with Grandpa Gohan. The first time he transformed into a Super Saiyan. Battles won and lost. Friends gained and enemies redeemed. But also darker moments. The savage joy he sometimes felt in battle. The Saiyan bloodlust he usually kept carefully contained. The times he'd failed those who depended on him. The shadow self isn't evil. Nyx's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It's simply the parts of yourself you prefer not to acknowledge. The pathway led to a circular clearing where the shifting patterns stabilized into a more coherent environment. Here, 5 figures waited, each a version of himself from different points in his journey. The innocent child who sought adventure. The young warrior discovering his power. The Super Saiyan awakened by grief. The god-level fighter pushing beyond mortal limits. And something else. A version of himself he didn't recognize, composed of swirling energy patterns that constantly shifted between forms. Your fragmented self. Nyx materialized beside him. Each represents an aspect of your identity. Each contains truth and shadow. What am I supposed to do? Goku asked. Integrate them. Not by destroying or dominating, but by acknowledging and accepting. As if triggered by her words, the figures began to move, not attacking exactly, but challenging. The child asked he'd abandoned simple joy for the pursuit of power. The young warrior questioned if his path had been chosen or merely followed. The Super Saiyan demanded whether transformation had brought wisdom or merely destruction. The god-level fighter asked if transcendence had separated him from what he sought to protect. And the shifting figure, the one he didn't recognize, asked the most troubling quest. Ion of all. When you have mastered every key type, what will remain of Son Goku? Each question struck with more force than any physical blow, resonating with doubts he'd carried but never articulated. The between amplified them, giving substance to shadow thoughts. This is your first trial, Nyx explained, watching dispassionately. The confrontation of self. Shadow Key requires acknowledging all aspects of identity, light and dark. Certainty and doubt, past and potential. Goku faced each aspect of himself, feeling strangely vulnerable. Fighting opponents had always been straightforward, victory achieved through strength, skill, and determination. But how did one fight aspects of oneself? The answer came with sudden clarity: you don't. He approached the child version first, kneeling to meet those innocent eyes. I never abandoned joy, he said gently. I found it in new challenges, in pushing limits, in protecting others. The path changed, but the heart remained the same. The child stood, eyed him solemnly before nodding and dissolving into motes of light that flowed into Goku's chest. He turned to the young warrior next. My path wasn't just chosen or followed, it was discovered step by step. Each challenge revealed the next. Each teacher opened new doors. I walked forward, not because destiny demanded it, but because my spirit sought growth. This aspect too nodded in acceptance before merging with him. To the Super Saiyan, wreathed in golden energy, transformation brought both destruction and wisdom. The power to break and the power to protect. I learned to channel rage into purpose. To transform grief into determination. The god-level fighter required deeper truth. Transcendence hasn't separated me from what matters, it's connected me more deeply. Power without compassion is empty. Strength without purpose is hollow. I seek not to rise above, but to lift others with me. Finally, he faced the shifting figure, his potential self, constantly changing form as if unable to settle on a single identity. I don't know who I'll be when this journey ends, he admitted honestly. Each new key type is changing me in ways I couldn't have imagined. But change isn't loss, it's evolution. Whatever I become, I'll still carry the core of who I've always been. Someone who protects, who grows, who faces challenges without surrendering to fear. The shifting figure regarded him with eyes that contained galaxies, reminiscent of the starlight entity from his vision. For a moment, Goku thought he'd failed this final confrontation. Then slowly, the figure bowed in acknowledgement before dissolving into prismatic light that flowed into him. As the last aspect merged with his being, something fundamental shifted within Goku. The environment around him responded, shadow patterns aligning with his movement. Responding to his thoughts with increasing sensitivity. Nyx approached, violet eyes gleaming with what might have been approval. First trial completed. You've acknowledged why. Our multifaceted nature without rejecting any aspect. Shadow recognizes your authenticity. Goku felt different. More integrated somehow, as if fragments of himself previously disconnected had found harmony. What comes next? The trial of others. Nyx gestured, and the environment shifted again. Shadow Key isn't solely internal. It exists in the spaces between beings, in connections, conflicts, and relationships. The clearing transformed, revealing new figures, people who had shaped his journey. Masters who had taught him. Friends who had supported him. Enemies who had challenged him. Family who had anchored him. But also 4 distinct feminine forms that he recognized with surprise: Lyra, Vera, Kenna, and a shadowy outline that suggested Nyx herself. Why are they here? He asked, confused by their presence. Because they represent connections forming in your present journey, bonds that will influence your becoming, Nyx explained. Shadow Key perceives the spaces between hearts, the unsaid truths that bind are separate. Each figure approached in turn, speaking truths that Goku had known but never fully acknowledged. Master Roshi, you surpassed me long ago, yet never stopped showing respect. Your humility preserved wisdom that arrogance would have lost. Vegeta, our rivalry made you stronger not because you needed to defeat me, but because you recognized a kindred spirit beneath the pride and anger. Krillin, you inspired loyalty not through power but through genuine friendship. You never looked down on those less strong, you lifted us up instead. His family spoke of sacrifices made and times missed, of balance imperfectly achieved between warriors' duty and family bonds. Then came the 4 women who had entered his current journey. Lyra stepped forward, her time-shifting eyes reflecting complex emotions. You represent everything I was taught to fear, a nexus with power to reshape reality. Yet I find myself trusting your intentions despite my training. Your IGHT forward nature dismantles my carefully constructed defenses. Vera approached next, kaleidoscope eyes spinning with analytical patterns. Your intuitive understanding challenges my scholarly knowledge. You grasp through instinct what I've spent millennia studying. It both fascinates and humbles me, forcing reconsideration of my assumptions. Kenna spoke with characteristic directness. You match me in combat without dominating. You respect strength without requiring submission. You understand the warrior's heart without losing compassion. These qualities are rare. Finally, the Shadow Nyx approached. You face darkness without being consumed. You acknowledge shadow without rejecting light. You walk the between without losing your path. Few have such balance. As each spoke, Goku fell. Chi connections forming. Not just intellectual understanding but deeper resonance, as if their energy patterns were harmonizing with his own in ways that transcended conventional relationships. The real Nyx watched this exchange with inscrutable expression. Shadow Ki requires understanding that we exist not just as individuals but as nodes in a complex network of relationships. Our shadows intermingle, our light reflects and refracts through others. The figures faded, leaving Goku with a profound awareness of connection, how each relationship had shaped his identity, how each bond contained both shadow and light. Final trial, Nyx announced. The embracing of void. The environment shifted one last time, all pattern and form dissolving until they stood in absolute nothingness, a void more complete than even the between had been. Shadow exists only in relation to light, Nyx explained, her form the only visible thing in endless blackness. Yet at its deepest level, Shadow Ki touches the void from which all reality emerges. To master it fully, you must embrace nothingness without losing selfhood. She placed her hands on either side of Goku's face, her violet eyes filling his vision. Let go of form, surrender identity, become shadow absolute. Her touch triggered immediate transformation, not physical but existential. Goku felt himself dissolving, consciousness expanding beyond boundaries of self. Individual identity began unraveling, memories and personality dispersing like mist. For a terrifying moment, he experienced ego death, complete dissolution of self into infinite void. He was everything and nothing, everywhere and nowhere. Remember who you are, Son Goku, when you no longer recognize what you've become. The words from his earlier vision echoed through dissolving consciousness. With tremendous effort, Goku reached for the core of his identity, not the name or form or history, but the essential quality that remained consistent through all transformations. The joy of existence, the drive to grow, the desire to protect, the capacity for connection. These weren't just characteristics, they were his fundamental nature, the pattern that persisted regardless of form or power level. Within the void, Goku reclaimed himself, not by rejecting dissolution but by finding continuity within it. He embraced shadow absolute while maintaining the spark of self. Reality reasserted itself gradually. Goku found himself still standing before Nyx, her hands now lowered, violet eyes watching him with newfound respect. You didn't fragment, she said, sounding genuinely impressed. Most Nexus candidates shattered during void exposure, their identity insufficient to withstand dissolution. Goku took a steadying breath, feeling fundamentally transformed. Shadow Ki flowed through him now, not as foreign energy but as integral aspect of his being. He could perceive the spaces between things, the connections linking all existence, the shadows that gave definition to light. I understand now, he said quietly. Shadow isn't darkness, It's context. It's what gives form meaning. Nyx smiled, the first genuine expression he'd seen from her. Precisely. Shadow Ki isn't about power, it's about perspective. Seeing what lies beneath, between, and beyond. The between began shifting around them, patterns reforming as reality prepared to reassert itself. You've passed my trials, Son Goku, Nyx declared formally. Shadow acknowledges your worth. What happens now? He asked. You return, carrying Shadow within you. Her expression turned serious. But understand, this is merely one aspect of the 15. Each will demand similar transformation. Each will reshape you in ways you cannot anticipate. And you, will you continue to guide me? Something complicated passed across her obsidian features. My role was to test, not teach. Yet, she seemed to reach a decision. Shadow walks its own path, yet sometimes alongside others. Perhaps our journeys intersect beyond this moment. The between began dissolving around them, reality bleeding through dissolving patterns. One last warning, Nyx said urgently as the transition accelerated. Malachi approaches. He senses your growing integration and hungers for it. Beware the broken nexus. He will seem familiar yet fundamentally wrong. Before Goku could ask more, reality snapped back into focus. They stood once more in the Temporal Academy's meditation chamber. Exactly where they had departed, though something in the quality of light suggested significant time had passed. Lyra, Vera, and Kenna were still present, though their postures suggested hours of anxious waiting. They jumped to attention as Goku and Nyx materialized. 7 hours, 23 minutes, and 14 seconds, Vera announced, checking her instruments. Relatively brief for comprehensive shadow walk training. Time flows differently in the between, Nyx replied, her appearance having returned to normal, though Goku could now perceive subtle shadows constantly shifting across her obsidian skin, invisible to conventional sight. Lyra approached cautiously. Are you, yourself? She asked Goku. Yes and no, he answered honestly. I'm still me, but, more. Kenna studied him with narrowed eyes. His aura's changed. Deeper somehow. Multi-layered. Shadow Ki integration appears complete, Vera confirmed, scanning Goku with obvious fascination. Remarkable adaptation rate. Full harmonic resonance across shadow frequency bands. Lyra turned to Nyx. He passed your trials. It wasn't a question, but Nyx nodded anyway. Completely. His shadow self is acknowledged and integrated. Rare even among experienced practitioners. Relief flickered across Lyra's time-shifting eyes before her professional demeanor reasserted itself. Chronos will need to be informed. Shadow Ki integration wasn't scheduled for at least 2 weeks. Always worrying about timetables, Nyx said with a dismissive wave. The patterns have their own schedule, Guardian. Your council merely pretends to direct what it merely observes. Before Lyra could respond, alarm klaxons blared throughout the academy. Emergency lights bathed the chamber in pulsing red. Dimensional breach alert, Kenna identified, tribal markings beginning to glow in response. Different pattern from the Void Collective incursion. Vera checked her instruments. Targeted breach. Specific temporal spatial coordinates. Directly outside this chamber. The air several meters away began to distort. Not the smoky tiers of void entities but a precise circular portal rimmed with crackling energy that seemed to burn reality itself. Dimensional Ki, Nyx identified, shadows gathering around her form. Forced breach through multiple reality layers. Academy defenses should prevent this, Lyra said, drawing her time blades. Unless the intruder possesses council override protocols, came a new voice as a figure stepped through the portal. The newcomer appeared humanoid, though his form seemed vaguely unstable, as if multiple versions of himself were imperfectly aligned. His skin was pallid with pulsing veins of multicolored energy visible beneath. Where eyes should have been, swirling vortices of light constantly shifted between colors. He wore armor composed of what appeared to be solidified energy, each piece vibrating at different frequencies. Malachi, Nyx hissed, recognition and loathing evident in her voice. The intruder smiled, an expression made disturbing by lips that occasionally phased out of synchronization with his face. Shadow Walker, he acknowledged. G'd Nyx before turning his vortex gaze to Goku. And the new Nexus candidate. How convenient to find you both together. Goku instinctively moved into defensive stance, feeling the others do the same around him. His newly integrated shadow key provided enhanced perception of Malachi's energy signature, fragmented yet immensely powerful, resonating across multiple frequency bands simultaneously but with distinct disharmony between them. "You're not welcome here, Broken One," Lyra stated formally, time blades glowing with azure energy. "By authority of the Temporal Council, the council that trained me, that promised I would be the prophecy's fulfillment." Malachi's laugh distorted halfway through, splitting into multiple overlapping sounds. "They feared my potential just as they fear his. Differences, I learned not to care for their approval." "You failed to maintain harmonic integrity," Vera observed, instruments scanning the intruder from behind the protection of her companions. Quote, "Cross-frequency dissonance has destabilized your fundamental pattern." "Always the scholar, Vera," Malachi replied with mocking familiarity. "Always believing understanding brings control." He gestured at his unstable form. "This isn't failure, it's transcendence beyond conventional harmonic limitations. It's corruption," Nyx countered flatly. "You've sacrificed integration for raw power. Your pattern unravels even as you stand here." Malachi's expression twisted with momentary pain before smoothing into artificial calm. "Temporary instabilities during transformation, nothing more." His vortex eyes fixed on Goku. He knows. He can feel his own identity shifting with each new integration. The fear of losing oneself to power. Goku studied the broken nexus carefully. Through shadow key perception, he could see the catastrophic disharmony within Malachi's being, how he'd forced incompatible energy patterns together without true integration. "What do you want?" Goku asked directly. "To save you from their lies," Malachi replied, gesturing toward the others. "They'll guide you along their careful path, keeping you bound to their rules, their limitations. I offer freedom, true mastery without constraints, the freedom of fragmentation." Kenna scoffed. "Your molecular integrity is visibly failing. You can barely maintain corporeal form." "Temporary setbacks," Malachi dismissed. "Once I've stabilized my resonance pattern." "You can't," Nyx interrupted. "Not without." She stopped abruptly, realization dawning. "That's why you're here. You need his integrated pattern to stabilize your own." Malachi's smile turned predatory. "Perceptive as always, Shadow Walker. The new nexus has achieved natural integration across multiple frequency bands. His pattern contains the harmonic solution my own lacks." "You want to steal my energy," Goku summarized, dropping into combat stance. "Not steal, share," Malachi corrected, hands rising in placating gesture. "A simple resonance transfer. You'd barely notice the difference. While I would achieve stabilization and conveniently gain his integration patterns," Lyra added coldly, "allowing you to continue forcing mastery of additional key types. The council denied me proper guidance," Malachi's voice hardened. "Feared my rapid progress. Called me unstable, dangerous. I merely found alternative methods to continue my evolution. By stealing from other practitioners," Nyx accused, "absorbing their partial mastery to construct your patchwork power." Malachi's form flickered, composure momentarily slipping. "They were weak, unworthy of the knowledge they possessed. I gave their energy purpose. By consuming them," Goku said quietly, seeing the truth through his enhanced perception. "You didn't just take their power, you absorbed their very beings." Something like shame briefly crossed Malachi's unstable features before hardening into resolve. "Necessities in service to greater evolution. The prophecy requires sacrifice." "Not like that," Goku stated firmly. "True mastery comes through harmony and balance, not domination and theft." Malachi studied him with those vortex eyes. "You believe that now, but wait until you face the council's limitations. Their fear of true transcendence." His voice dropped to something almost gentle. "They'll never allow you to complete your journey, Goku. They'll find a reason to stop you, to neutralize you, before you reach your full potential." An uncomfortable silence followed his words. Goku could feel tension radiating from Lyra, especially, the truth in Malachi's statement resonating with her own unspoken concerns. "Perhaps," Goku finally acknowledged. "But that doesn't make your path right." "Right, wrong." Malachi laughed that disturbing multi-layered laugh. "Such limited concepts. We're beyond conventional morality, you and I. We're becoming something else, something beyond the comprehension of ordinary beings." "That doesn't free us from responsibility," Goku countered. Greater power demands greater care, not less. Malachi's expression hardened. Charming philosophy. We'll see how well it serves when the council decides you're too dangerous to continue evolving. His form began pulsing with gathering energy. I had hoped you might join me willingly. A shame. Stand down, Malachi, Lyra warned, her blades tracing complex patterns that began forming a temporal barrier. Academy defenses are locking onto your position. Always hiding behind rules and systems, Malachi sneered. But I've evolved beyond your containment protocols. He struck without further awe. RNING, not a physical attack but a dimensional rupture that cracked reality itself. Space fractured around them, gravity fluctuating wildly as portions of the chamber began operating under different physical laws. Kenna reacted instantly, tribal markings flaring as she channeled elemental ki to stabilize their immediate surroundings. Vera's instruments projected harmonic fields that partially counteracted the dimensional disruption. Nyx melted into shadows, reappearing behind Malachi with blades formed from solidified darkness. Goku accessed his newly integrated shadow ki, perceiving the patterns of distortion Malachi was creating. Rather than attacking directly, he focused on counter-harmonics, using his energy not as weapon but as stabilizing influence. Fascinating approach, Malachi commented, easily evading Nyx's shadow blades while maintaining his reality distortions. Using shadow to reinforce structure rather than exploit weakness. Creative but insufficient. He gestured sharply, and space compressed between them. Suddenly he stood directly before Goku, hand outstretched toward his chest. Your pattern will be appreciated, he said, fingers beginning to glow with hungry energy. Before contact could be made, Lyra appeared between them, time blades crossed defensively. Temporal barrier, she called. Azure energy expanding outward to separate the combatants. Malachi snarled in frustration, his unstable form flickering more violently. Always interfering. Guardian, your precious council failed me, will you let them fail him too? The council didn't fail you, Lyra retorted, maintaining her barrier despite visible strain. You refused integration in favor of power. You chose domination over harmony. Lies. Malachi's outburst manifested physically, reality fracturing further around his unstable form. They feared what I would become. Just as they fear him. Goku moved beside Lyra, lending his energy to strengthen her temporal barrier. Through shadow ki perception, he could see the complex emotions swirling within both opponents. Lyra's genuine concern tempered by duty, Malachi's rage masking profound pain and loneliness. You're right about one thing, Goku said to Malachi. There is fear, on all sides. But fear doesn't have to determine our choices. Something in his words seemed to reach Malachi momentarily. The vortices of his eyes slowed, almost focusing. It's too late for me, he said. Sudden lucidity breaking through chaos. My pattern destabilizes further with each passing moment. Without harmonization, let us help you, Goku offered, genuinely. Not through forced energy transfer, but proper integration. Malachi stared at him, something like longing crossing his features. For a moment, it seemed he might accept. Then his expression hardened once more. Sentiment. Weakness. I'll find my own solution. His form began to shimmer. But remember my warning about the council, Goku. They'll never allow your full potential to manifest. Before anyone could respond, Malachi tore open another dimensional portal and stepped through. Reality snapped back into proper alignment with his departure, the chamber returning to normal. Well, Kenna said into the ensuing silence. That was dramatic. Vera was already analyzing readings her instruments had gathered. His pattern degradation has accelerated significantly. Molecular coherence failing across multiple frequency bands. He's dying, Nyx stated flatly, shadow blades dissipating as she stepped from darkness. His forced mastery is unraveling his very existence. Can he be helped? Goku asked, genuinely concerned despite the attack. Lyra deactivated her time blades slowly. Perhaps once. Not anymore. He's absorbed too many discordant patterns without proper integration. His NDA mental identity is compromised beyond recovery. A warning, Nyx said, violet eyes finding Goku's, of what happens when power is pursued without balance. When mastery is forced rather than earned. Goku nodded, understanding the lesson all too clearly. Malachi represented a possible future for himself, Power gained at the cost of harmony, existence sustained only through consuming others. Aka, demi-security will need to be recalibrated, Lyra said, already moving toward communications equipment. If Malachi could breach our defenses so easily. It wasn't easy, Nyx interrupted. Look, she pointed to where Malachi had stood. The floor was stained with iridescent fluid that pulsed with multiple colors. He sacrificed substantial cellular integrity to maintain coherence during the breach. Desperation, not strength. Vera examined the substance with her instruments. Fascinating. Quantum-level deterioration with partial reconstitution attempts. His pattern is trying to self-repair using incompatible energy structures. Like building with mismatched parts, Kenna simplified, crouching to study the stain. Each piece technically functional but not designed to work together. And his is what happens when proper integration is bypassed, Lyra said, giving Goku a meaningful look. When power is accumulated without harmonization. I understand, he assured her. Malachi's path isn't mine. Speaking of paths, Kenna interjected, rising to her feet, what happens now? Shadow key integration wasn't on today's schedule, and Chronos definitely didn't authorize contact with Nyx. All eyes turned to Lyra, who sighed heavily. Protocol requires immediate reporting to the Council. Deviation from approved evaluation sequences triggers mandatory review. They'll restrict his training, Nyx predicted flatly. Use this as excuse to slow or halt his development. Or they might recognize the threat Malachi represents and accelerate proper training, Vera countered optimistically. Logical response to emerging danger. Lyra's expression suggested she considered Nyx's assessment more likely than Vera's. I'll present the full situation. Malachi's appearance changes circumstances significantly. What about my shadow key integration? Goku asked. Is it complete? Nyx studied him critically. Foundational mastery achieved. Application depth requires practice. Your shadow perk, Epsion, will continue developing as you integrate additional key types. Which means we should proceed with the originally scheduled training, Vera suggested. Spirit key was next in sequence, followed by destruction and creation. Kenna stretched her arms overhead casually. After seeing Malachi's little display, I vote for accelerating the schedule. Better Goku achieves proper integration quickly than leaving him vulnerable to energy theft. The Council won't approve acceleration, Lyra stated with certainty. Quite the opposite. Then don't ask, Nyx said simply. Sometimes forgiveness outperforms permission. Easy for you to say, Lyra retorted. You don't answer to Chronos. Neither do you, Nyx countered, when multiversal stability is at stake. Your duty transcends Council politics. You know this. Something unspoken passed between the two women. Some shared history that Goku could sense through shadow key perception but couldn't fully interpret. Finally, Lyra nodded curtly. I'll inform Chronos of Malachi's breach and the shadow integration. Beyond that, we'll proceed as circumstances demand. Her carefully chosen words made Nyx smile slightly. The Guardian remembers her true purpose. How refreshing. Don't push it, Lyra warned, though without real heat. Goku watched this exchange with newfound understanding. Shadow key perception revealed the complex relationships between these women. Respect layered with tension, shared purpose complicated by different methods. What about you? He asked Nyx directly. Will you stay? The shadow assassin seemed momentarily caught off guard by the question. My role was testing, not teaching. But you said our paths might intersect beyond this moment, Goku reminded her. Violet eyes studied him thoughtfully. So I did. After a moment's consideration, she nodded once. I'll remain, for now. Malachi's appearance suggests developments that may require shadow perspective. Splendid, Vera exclaimed. Your insights into shadow frequency manipulation would significantly enhance our training protocols. Kenna grinned at Lyra's obvious discomfort with this arrangement. Getting crowded in the Nexus observation team, isn't it, Guardian? Lyra pinched the bridge of her nose. I'll need to explain this to Chronos somehow. Tell him I invited myself, Nyx suggested with a smirk. It has the virtue of being true. Before further discussion could develop, another alarm sounded. Different from the breach warning, more urgent in its pulsing rhythm. Council summons, Lyra identified, expression growing serious. Chronos has called an emergency session. She glanced at Goku. Your presence is specifically requested. That was fast, Kenna remarked. Think they detected the shadow walk? Or Malachi's breach triggered automatic protocols, Vera theorized. Dimensional disruptions of that magnitude would certainly register in Council monitoring systems. Whatever the reason, Lyra said grimly, we need to respond immediately. Council summons cannot be delayed. Nyx melted into shadow, reappearing moments later in different attire, formal robes that seemed woven from darkness itself. I'll accompany you. Lyra raised an eyebrow. You, voluntarily attending council proceedings. Extraordinary times, Nyx replied with a shrug that didn't quite hide her concern. Besides, someone needs to speak truth when politics prevail over purpose. Goku listened to these exchanges while processing everything that had happened. The shadow walk had transformed him profoundly, expanding his perception beyond physical reality. Malachi's appearance had revealed both threat and warning. And now the council, the very authority Malachi had warned against, was summoning him directly. The journey was accelerating beyond anyone's careful plans. Destiny or chance was forcing movement where caution might have prevailed. Through his enhanced perception, Goku could sense currents of possibility swirling around them, threads of potential futures branching and merging in complex patterns. Some paths led to harmony, others to destruction, all depending on choices yet unmade. I'm ready, he said simply. As they prepared to answer the summons, Goku felt the weight of multiple gazes, Lyra's concern, Vera's fascination, Kenna's competitive respect, and Nyx's enigmatic assessment. 4 extraordinary women, each representing different aspects of the power he sought to master, each connected to his journey in ways still unfolding. The shadow walk had revealed truth about connections, how beings existed not in isolation but in relationship. How identity formed through interaction as much as internal quality. Whatever the council intended, whatever challenges Malachi represented, whatever transformations awaited as he pursued mastery of the remaining key types, Goku understood one thing with absolute clarity: this journey would not be walked alone. With this knowledge anchoring him, he followed Lyra toward the council chambers, ready to face whatever judgment awaited. Chapter 3. The Nexus Awakens. The Council of Observers convened in a chamber that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensions. Massive crystalline pillars rose toward an impossible ceiling that reflected not the room below but the swirling cosmos itself. 15 thrones arranged in perfect geometric formation dominated the central space, each carved from materials representing the fundamental key types. Most sat empty, only 5 occupied by beings whose very presence distorted reality around them. Kronos occupied the central position, his hourglass pupils rotating slowly as he observed their approach. Beside him sat 4 other observers, an ancient female entity composed of swirling elemental forces, a being of pure light whose features constantly shifted between expressions. A massive figure whose obsidian form absorbed surrounding radiance, and a childlike entity whose innocent appearance belied the ancient wisdom in their rainbow-hued eyes. Arrayed around the chamber stood various witnesses and functionaries, academy representatives, dimensional emissaries, and beings whose purpose Goku couldn't immediately discern. All conversation ceased as their group entered, attention focusing with laser-like intensity. Guardian Lyra, Kronos acknowledged. You bring the Nexus candidate as requested. His rotating pupils fixed on the others. Along with unexpected additions, circumstances evolved rapidly. Observer, Lyra replied formally, dropping to one knee in a gesture of respect that the others, except Nyx, mirrored. I deemed LL representation appropriate given recent developments. Indeed, Kronos' gaze lingered on Nyx. Shadow Walker, your presence at formal proceedings is unprecedented. Nyx inclined her head slightly. Extraordinary times demand extraordinary participation, Time Master. Shadow has insights light often overlooks. Something like amusement flickered across Kronos' timeless features before his attention returned to Goku. Son Goku of Universe 7. You stand before the Council of Observers, guardians of multiversal continuity since time's first breath. Goku met the Time Master's gaze directly, feeling the weight of eons behind those rotating pupils. Through his enhanced perception, he could see temporal currents swirling around Kronos, past, present, and countless potential futures constantly assessed and categorized. Thank you for seeing me, Goku said simply. The childlike observer laughed, a sound like tinkling crystal. Polite yet direct. Interesting combination for a Nexus candidate. Their rainbow eyes sparkled with genuine curiosity. I am Elysium, observer of emotional key. Your energy patterns display remarkable adaptability. Adaptability or instability remains to be determined, countered the being of light. Voice resonating with multiple harmonic overtones. I am Luminous, observer of creation key. Your accelerated development raises concerns about proper integration. Yet his pattern shows natural harmonic alignment across multiple frequency bands, noted the elemental entity, her voice shifting like wind through leaves. I am Gaia, observer of elemental key. Most practitioners require decades to achieve what you've managed in days. The obsidian figure spoke last, voice rumbling from depths unfathomable. I am Umbra, observer of destruction key. The question before us is not your capability, Son Goku, but your purpose. Power without direction becomes chaos. Mastery without meaning breeds catastrophe. Chronos raised a hand, silencing further commentary. We've monitored your progress with increasing interest, Son Goku. Your natural affinity for multiple key types suggests potential alignment with prophecy parameters. His expression revealed nothing of his thoughts. Recent events, however, require reassessment of approach. You mean my shadow key integration, Goku surmised, and Malachi's appearance. Murmurs rippled through the assembled witnesses at the mention of Malachi's name. Chronos' pupils rotated faster momentarily. Indeed, both occurred outside approved protocols. The Time Master's gaze shifted to Lyra. Guardian, explain these deviations. Lyra stepped forward, maintaining perfect composure despite the intensity focused upon her. The Shadow Walk was initiated following direct communication between Son Goku and Fundamenta. L consciousness patterns during meditation. The entities specifically directed him to seek shadow key integration through Nyx. Convenient direction, Luminous commented skeptically. Yet consistent with prophecy parameters. Elysium countered, rainbow eyes thoughtful. Direct pattern communication typically indicates resonance alignment. As for Malachi's appearance, Lyra continued, he breach. D Academy defenses approximately 7 standard hours after Shadow Walk completion. His intent appeared to be energy pattern theft from Son Goku to stabilize his own deteriorating condition. Malachi grows desperate, Umbra observed. Darkness swirling around his massive form. His fragmented integration approaches critical failure. A situation of the Council's making, Nyx interjected, violet eyes challenging. Had you provided proper guidance rather than containment, his journey might have proceeded differently. Tension crackled through the chamber at her accusation. Chronos' expression remained impassive, but his pupils rotated with increasing speed. You overstep, Shadow Walker, he warned. I speak truth, Nyx countered. Malachi was abandoned to prevent prophecy fulfillment. Now, another Nexus candidate stands before you, and I sense similar hesitation disguised as caution. Gaia raised a hand formed of swirling elements. The circumstances differ significantly. Malachi sought power for dominance. His intent corrupted the integration process from inception. And Son Goku's intent, Luminous challenged. How do we measure the purity of his motivation? By his actions, Kenna stepped forward boldly. I've tested his elemental resonance personally. He seeks harmony, not domination, integration, not acquisition. Scholar Vera, Chronos redirected, your analysis of his development pattern. Vera's kaleidoscope eyes spun with nervous energy as attention shifted to her. All metrics indicate natural frequency alignment across multiple resonance bands. Integration pros. Eds organically without forced acceleration or disharmonic intrusion. His pattern exhibits self-correction properties unprecedented in documented cases. Yet the pace remains concerning, Chronos noted. Conventional mastery requires centuries per key type. His accelerated timeline suggests potential instability. Or exceptional affinity, Elysium suggested. The prophecy speaks of natural integration capacity as the nexus marker. Goku, listening to this clinical discussion of his development, finally spoke. May I ask a question? All eyes turned to him, some surprised at his interruption, others curious. Of course, Nexus candidate, Chronos permitted with regal inclination of his head. This prophecy everyone keeps mentioning, what exactly does it say? If it's about me, shouldn't I know its contents? A moment of silence followed his reasonable question. The observers exchanged glances, seemingly communicating without words. Finally, Elysium nodded encouragingly. He deserves to know. The prophecy shapes his path whether spoken or not. Kronos sighed, a strangely human gesture from such a transcendent being. Very well, he gestured, and reality shifted around them. The chamber transformed, stars swirling overhead coalescing into symbols and patterns that formed a text glowing with inner light. The words appeared in no language Goku recognized, yet somehow he understood their meaning perfectly. When 15 flames become one fire, the nexus awakens beyond desire. All boundaries broken, all limits surpassed. First of creation and last of the last. Either salvation or doom shall rise, as the chosen one claims their prize. Balance maintained or cosmos rent. On single heart shall fate relent. The shadow embraced, the void contained. The light directed, the chaos tamed. Not power alone but wisdom too, shall determine if prophecy proves true. Asterisk. As the glowing words faded, the chamber returned to normal. Goku absorbed the prophecy's meaning, understanding now why it ends. Hired both hope and fear among the observers. So basically, he summarized, someone will master all 15 key types, becoming either a savior or destroyer depending on their character and wisdom. An oversimplification. Luminous sniffed, but essentially correct. And you've been preventing potential candidates from completing the journey because you fear the destructive outcome more than you hope for salvation, Goku continued. Pieces falling into place. Uncomfortable silence confirmed his assessment. Malachi was not the first, Umbra finally admitted, darkness swirling. Throughout eternity, 17 beings have shown nexus potential. 14 were neutralized before integration proceeded beyond early stages. 3, including Malachi, progressed further before intervention became necessary. Neutralized. Goku repeated the euphemism. You mean destroyed. Cosmic continuity outweighs individual existence, Kronos stated without apology. The risk of multiversal collapse demanded decisive action. Yet here stands another candidate, Nyx observed pointedly. Seemingly beyond your capacity to neutralize, given his current integration level. The implied threat hung in the air, tension rising palpably. Goku sensed energy signatures shifting throughout the chamber as various beings prepared for potential conflict. That's not why I'm here, Goku said firmly, breaking the dangerous momentum. I have no interest in fighting the council. I just want to understand the full situation. Elysium's childlike face broke into a dazzling smile. Wisdom speaks. Perhaps this nexus truly differs from predecessors. What remains unclear, Gaia noted, elemental form shifting thoughtfully, is how to proceed. Conventional protocols seem inadequate given accelerated development parameters. And Malachi's targeting creates additional complications, Luminous added. His fragmented integration poses existential threat to established continuity. Kronos studied Goku with those unsettling hourglass pupils. The council must deliberate on appropriate course of action. Guardian Lyra, please escort the candidate and associates to the waiting chamber. Actually, Goku interjected before they could be dismissed. I'd like to propose my own plan. Surprise rippled through the chamber. Observers did not typically entertain suggestions from those they evaluated. Bold, Umbra commented, darkness pulsing with what might have been approval. Proceed, Kronos permitted, curiosity evident despite his reserved demeanor. Goku stepped forward, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon him. I understand your concerns about rushed mastery. Malachi shows what happens when integration is forced without proper guidance. But stopping my development entirely isn't the answer either. Especially with Malachi actively hunting me and the Void Collective showing interest. He gestured to the 4 women who had become his guides. I have exceptional teachers representing different key types. Instead of restricting my training to rigid protocols, allow them to guide my integration naturally. No artificial limitations, but no reckless acceleration either, just following the natural rhythm of mastery. You propose self-directed development? Luminous asked incredulously. Unprecedented. Not self-directed, Goku corrected. Guided by those who understand the key types intimately. Lyra masters time key. Nyx embodies shadow key. Kenna channels elemental key. Vera comprehends harmonic key. Others could join as needed for remaining types. An integration council rather than evaluation team, Elysium mused. Rainbow eyes bright with interest. Fascinating approach. And what of council oversight? Kronos asked, expression unreadable. Full transparency, Goku offered. Regular assessments, open communication. I have nothing to hide and every reason to ensure proper integration. And if this Integration Council determines you're developing dangerously, Umbra challenged. Goku met the Destruction Observer's gaze directly. Then they have my permission to do whatever's necessary to protect the multiverse, even if that means neutralizing me. Gasps echoed through the chamber at this declaration. Such willing acceptance of potential termination was unprecedented among Nexus candidates. The 4 women who had accompanied him showed varying reactions to his proposal. Vera's kaleidoscope eyes spun with excitement at the research possibilities. Kenna nodded approvingly at his directness. Nix's expression remained carefully neutral, though a subtle shift in the shadows around her suggested surprise. Lyra alone looked troubled, her time-shifting eyes revealing complex emotions beneath professional composure. The observers conferred silently for several moments, temper energies swirling around their thrones as they communicated on levels beyond conventional perception. Finally, Chronos addressed the chamber. The council will consider Son Goku's proposal during formal deliberation. Until determination is reached, current integration activities are suspended. His gaze focused on Goku. You will remain within Academy boundaries under standard monitoring protocols. It wasn't the immediate approval Goku had hoped for, but neither was it outright rejection. He bowed respectfully. Thank you for considering my request. As they turned to leave, Elysium called out, Son Goku. When he looked back, the childlike observer's rainbow eyes gleamed with something like hope. Not all observers fear prophecy fulfillment. Some of us have waited eternity for the Nexus to awaken. This unexpected endorsement drew sharp looks from the other council members, particularly Chronos. Before further exchange could occur, Lyra ushered their group from the chamber. Once beyond the council's direct presence, Kenna exhaled dramatically. Well, that was terrifying and exhilarating. Proposing your own integration plan directly to the council. Either incredibly brave or spectacularly foolish. Or both, Nyx added with grudging respect. Few beings address the observers as equals. Fewer still offer themselves as willing sacrifices if development goes awry. Did you mean that? Lyra asked quietly as they walked through dimensional corridors back toward Academy grounds. About accepting neutralization if necessary. Goku nodded. I've sacrificed myself before to protect others. If mastering these key types truly threatened existence itself, I wouldn't hesitate to do so again. Statistically improbable scenario given current integration parameters, Vera interjected optimistically. Your harmonic alignment suggests natural stabilization even at full mastery potential. The council won't decide quickly, Nyx predicted as shadows swirled around her form. Crow-Nose particularly dislikes disruptions to established protocols. So we wait, Goku concluded, surprising them with his patience. Just like that, Kenna asked skeptically. The fighter renowned Acro's universes for charging headlong into challenges suddenly embraces patience. Goku smiled. Shadow Key has already changed my perspective. I'm seeing connections and patterns I never noticed before. Omatime's waiting creates more possibilities than acting. Remarkable adaptive integration, Vera murmured, instruments discreetly scanning his energy signature. Shadow characteristics incorporating into fundamental personality matrix without disrupting core identity parameters. In plain language, Nyx translated dryly, he's learning. Their return to Academy grounds was met with barely concealed curiosity from residents. News of council summons traveled quickly, and Goku's growing reputation as a Nexus candidate generated intense interest throughout the facility. They gathered in a privet garden courtyard where crystalline trees shifted colors with passing thoughts and flowers bloomed in geometric patterns. A small fountain at the center created perfect harmonic tones as water flowed over precisely arranged stones. So what now? Kenna asked, lounging casually against a color-shifting tree trunk. Twiddle our thumbs while the council debates whether to let you continue or neutralize you. We prepare, Lyra answered before Goku could respond. Council deliberation provides opportunity for strategic planning. Prepare how? Goku asked. I thought all integration activities were suspended. A small smile curved Lyra's lips. Training is suspended. Study isn't explicitly prohibited. Exploiting linguistic technicalities, Nyx noted with approval. Perhaps you're not entirely bound by rules after all, Guardian. Quote, I uphold the spirit of council directives while acknowledging practical necessities, Lyra replied primly, though her time-shifting eyes conveyed mischievous determination. Vera was already organizing research materials on her instruments. Theoretical foundation will significantly enhance practical application once integration resumes. We should begin WITH comprehensive review of remaining key types, their fundamental resonance patterns, historical manifestations, and documented integration sequences. Less theory, more application, Kenna countered. Even without active channeling, he can practice perception extensions from already integrated types. Shadow Key particularly offers expanded awareness that transfers to other forms. As they debated optimal preparation approaches, Goku observed the interaction with newfound perception. Each woman approached the situation according to her nature. Vera through knowledge, Kenna through action, Nyx through insight, Lyra through balanced consideration. Together, they created something greater than their individual perspectives, a harmonious whole despite apparent contradictions. "You're all right," he interjected, drawing their attention. "I need theoretical understanding, perceptual practice, and strategic preparation. But first, I'd like to know more about each of you." His request caught them off guard. They'd been so focused on his development that personal connections had remained largely professional. "About us." Vera blinked kaleidoscope eyes in confusion. "For what purpose?" "Connection," Goku replied simply. "Shadow Key showed me how relationships shape development, how we exist not just as individuals but as nodes in a complex network. If you're going to guide my integration, I should understand your journeys." The four women exchanged glances, clearly unprepared for this shift from training to personal disclosure. Surprisingly, Kenna spoke first. "Fair enough. My people come from Vikara, a volcanic world in Universe 11. We evolved alongside elemental extremes, magma seas, lightning storms, crushing gravity. Survival required not just adapting to elements but understanding them intimately." Her tribal markings pulsed with inner fire as she spoke. "I showed affinity young, channeling my first flame at age 3. By 12, I could manipulate all 4 primary elements simultaneously." "Impressive," Goku commented genuinely. Kenna's expression darkened. "My world began experiencing elemental destabilization decades ago, harmony breaking down as primal forces grew increasingly chaotic. I left to seek knowledge that might save my people. The Academy offered resources unavailable elsewhere." "Did you find what you needed?" Goku asked. "Still searching," she admitted, voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. "Elemental chaos resists conventional solutions. Each temporary balance collapses faster than the previous attempt. Perhaps because elemental harmony requires all 15 key types. Not just elemental manipulation," Nyx suggested unexpectedly. "Creation establishes pattern. Destruction releases stagnant energy. Time stabilizes cyclical fluctuations. Shadow provides necessary contrast." Kenna stared at her, clearly never having considered this perspective. "That would explain why conventional approaches keep failing. Exactly why Nexus potential matters beyond prophecy." Vera added excitedly. "Integrated mastery creates possibilities currently theoretical." Attention shifted to Vera, who straightened self-consciously. "My history. Less dramatic perhaps. I originated in Universe 14, a civilization devoted to knowledge accumulation. We built the greatest repository of multiversal information ever assembled, the Infinite Archive." Her kaleidoscope eyes dimmed slightly. "When dimensional collapse began consuming our universe, I was sent through with core knowledge crystals while others remained behind to delay the inevitable. Chronos found me drifting between realities and brought me to the Academy." "I'm sorry about your universe," Goku said gently. Vera nodded acknowledgement. 14 trillion sentient beings, 10 billion years of civilization, incalculable knowledge, all gone. I exist as living memory of an entire reality." Her voice strengthened with determination. "Which is why I dedicated myself to understanding the 15 key types. If harmonic imbalance caused the collapse, comprehensive knowledge might prevent future occurrences." Silence followed her revelation. The loss she carried was beyond conventional comprehension, an entire universe remembered by a single survivor. Nyx spoke next, surprising everyone with her willingness to share. "Shadow reveals truth, so truth I shall offer." She paced gracefully, shadows swirling around her form. "I wasn't born, I was created. The first shadow walker, designed by ancient beings to move between realities when boundaries were still forming. Created. Vera leaned forward with academic interest. You're a constructed being. In essence, Nyx confirmed without shame. My purpose was observation and occasional intervention when reality patterns threatened stability. For eons, I fulfilled this function precisely as designed. A sardonic smile curved her lips. Until I developed something unexpected. Independent consciousness, personal perspective. You became more than your programming, Goku surmised. Precisely. My creators found this development concerning. They attempted deactivation. The shadows around her darkened momentarily. They discovered too late that giving shadow form gives it the ability to hide. You survived by concealing yourself in the spaces between realities, Lyra noted with newfound understanding. The between became your refuge. Nyx nodded. I've existed there primarily ever since, emerging when necessary to test those who seek mastery of Shadow Key. Most fail, unable to embrace darkness while maintaining light. And those who pass? Goku asked. Her violet eyes met his directly. You're only the third in all existence. This revelation settled over the group with significant weight. Whatever Nyx's test had measured, Goku had demonstrated exceedingly rare capacity. All eyes turned expectantly to Lyra, the only one who hadn't shared her history. She remained silent for several moments, time-shifting eyes revealing internal conflict. My story intersects directly with our current situation, she finally said. I was timekeeper for a thriving civilization in a reality that no longer exists. We achieved remarkable harmony, art, science, philosophy all flourishing in perfect balance. Her voice grew distant with memory. Then came one who could manipulate multiple energy types, our universe's Nexus candidate. The Council identified him early, monitored his development, but deemed him stable enough to continue evolving. What happened? Goku asked gently when she paused. He mastered 12 key types successfully, Lyra continued. Pain evident beneath professional composure. Integration proceeded flawlessly until the 13th, Chaos Key. Something went wrong during the harmonization process. Reality began unraveling. G around him as his pattern destabilized. The Council intervened. Nyx prompted. Lyra nodded grimly. Kronos himself arrived to implement containment protocols. But it was too late. Dimensional bar. Ayers had already weakened beyond recovery. The candidate's fragmentation accelerated exponential cascade failure throughout our reality. She closed her eyes momentarily, composing herself. I was coordinating evacuation when temporal fracturing reached critical threshold. Kronos pulled me through moments before complete collapse. I was the only survivor. So that's why you joined the Time Guardians, Goku realized. To prevent similar tragedies. Kronos offered purpose when I had nothing else, Lyra acknowledged. For centuries, I embraced the Council's caution regarding Nexus candidates. Better to prevent potential catastrophe than risk entire realities. Yet you're helping me, Goku noted. Something softened in her time-shifting eyes. Because you're different. Your integration occurs naturally, without forcing. Your motivation isn't power but understanding. She straightened, professional demeanor reasserting itself. But my experience explains why I insist on proper protocols. I've witnessed the consequences of integration failure firsthand. The garden fell silent as they absorbed these shared histories. Each woman carried profound experiences that shaped her approach to key mastery, personal losses, existential purposes, ancient origins. Through shadow key perception, Goku could see how these experiences created the unique energy signatures that defined them. Thank you, he said simply, for trusting me with your stories. Before anyone could respond, a temporal ripple disturbed the garden's tranquility. A small communication sphere materialized, pulsing with azure light. Council summons. Lyra identified, surprise evident in her voice. That was unusually quick. Deliberation shouldn't have concluded for at least several days, Vera noted with concern. Unless something changed their timeline, Nyx suggested ominously. The sphere expanded, revealing Kronos' stern visage. Guardian Lyra, immediate presence required. Bring the Nexus candidate. Emergency protocols enacted. The message dissolved, leaving foreboding in its wake. That can't be good, Kenna muttered, tribal markings already glowing with defensive energy. We should prepare for potential conflict, Nyx advised. Shadows gathering around her form. Let's not assume the worst, Goku countered, rising from his seated position. Something's happened, but jumping to conclusions doesn't help. Lyra nodded agreement, though tension showed in her posture. We'll respond as requested. The rest of you remain alert but don't interfere unless absolutely necessary. They moved quickly through Academy grounds toward the Council's dimensional access point. As they walked, Goku noticed subtle changes in their surroundings. Security protocols activated at heightened levels, restricted areas pulsing with containment fields. Guardian personnel positioned at strategic intervals. The Academy's on high alert, he observed quietly. Maximum defensive configuration, Lyra confirmed, hand resting on her time blades. Whatever prompted the Council's accelerated decision, it's serious enough to warrant full security implementation. The dimensional access point glowed with intensified energy as they approached. Rather than the regulated transition they'd experienced previously, the portal surged with barely controlled power. Temporal compression active, Lyra noted with concern. They're accelerating our arrival relative to standard time flow. The journey through dimensional space occurred in compressed moments, reality blurring around them before resolving into the Council chamber once more. This time, however, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. All 15 observer thrones were occupied, the full Council assembled, a rare occurrence reserved for multiversal emergencies. Floating displays surrounded them, showing disturbances across multiple reality layers. Chronos rose as they entered, hourglass pupils rotating rapidly. Guardian, candidate, thank you for your prompt response. What's happened? Lyra asked directly, formality abandoned in the face of obvious crisis. Multiple dimensional breaches across 17 reality clusters, Gaia answered, elemental form shifting agitatedly. Pattern consistent with forced entry rather than natural phenomena. Malachi, Goku guessed. Initially suspected, luminous confirmed, light form pulsing with tension. Until this arrived, a projection appeared in the chamber's center, a recording showing a familiar unstable figure. Malachi's condition had deteriorated further, energy patterns visibly fragmenting around his form as he struggled to maintain coherence. Observers, the recording began, Malachi's voice distorting through multiple harmonic ranges. Your precious multiverse faces extinction. The void collectee. Vey approaches, drawn by nexus potential you tried to suppress. They've found me, as they'll find him. His unstable form gestured toward an unseen observer. Your choices precipitated this crisis. Your fear created vulnerability where strength should have developed. Malachi's form flickered violently, temporarily dissolving before painfully reconstituting. I offer one solution, the harmonic convergence protocol. Allow me to stabilize using the Nexus candidate's integrated pattern. Together, we might generate sufficient counter-resonance to repel the collective. His expression contorted with bitter amusement. Refuse, and watch reality unravel as the void consumes everything. You have 6 temporal units to decide. The recording concluded with Malachi's fractured laughter. Silence fell over the council chamber as the projection faded. Goku processed this unexpected development with concern. The harmonic convergence protocol, he repeated. What exactly is that? Theoretical emergency measure, Umbra explained. Darkness swirling around his massive form. Designed to combine multiple nexus patterns into unified counter-resonance field capable of repelling extra-dimensional intrusions. But it's never been implemented. Elysium added, childlike appearance belying the ancient wisdom in their rainbow eyes. Because true nexus patterns rarely manifest, and multiple candidates have never existed simultaneously. Until now, Chronos concluded grimly. Though, candidate, inadequately describes Malachi's current condition. His fragmentation accelerates exponentially. Critical pat, turn failure imminent within 2 standard cycles. And the void collective, Lyra asked, confirmed intrusion, verified across multiple detection parameters, another observer confirmed. 17 major breaches already documented, with micro-ruptures proliferating geometrically. Goku considered the situation carefully. Malachi claims they're drawn by nexus potential, first his, now mine. Partially accurate, Chronos acknowledged reluctantly. The collective exists in dimensional interstices, feeding on potential energy across reality boundaries. Nexus candidates generate unique resonance patterns particularly attractive to their consumption methodology. So they were coming regardless, Goku surmised. Whether you suppressed previous candidates or not. Several observers shifted comfortably at this direct challenge to their long-standing policy. Perhaps, Kronos conceded, though containment protocols have previously proven sufficient to minimize attractant resonance. Malakai's fragmentation created uncontainable discharge, Vera theorized, having joined them despite not being specifically summoned. His deteriorating pattern essentially functions as multiversal beacon. Precisely. Elysium confirmed. The very instability we feared has manifested, not from completed integration but from interrupted development. Ironic, Nyx commented from shadows near the chamber entrance. Your prevention efforts created the very catastrophe you sought to avoid. Kronos' expression tightened at her accusation, but he didn't dispute it. Current circumstances render past decisions irrelevant. We must address immediate existential threat. Which brings us to Malakai's proposal, Umbra rumbled. The Harmonic Convergence Protocol. You can't seriously be considering it, Lyra objected. Attempting pattern merger with Malakai's fragmented integration would likely destroy Son Goku's stable development, while potentially providing sufficient unified resonance to repel collective intrusion. Luminous countered. Individual sacrifice may be necessary for multiversal preservation, or it might accelerate catastrophic failure, Kenna interjected boldly, stepping forward despite protocol. Introducing stable patterns to fragmented systems typically exacerbates deterioration rather than resolving it. Elemental Kenna speaks truth, Gaia supported, her swir. Ling form creating momentary alignment with Kenna's tribal markings. Harmonization requires compatible frequency bands. Malakai's pattern contains fundamental corruption incompatible with proper resonance. Then what alternatives remain? Kronos demanded. The collective breaches expand hourly. Conventional containment measures prove insufficient. Without unified response, consumption becomes inevitable. Silence fell as the terrible choice became clear. Risk Goku's destruction through merger with Malakai, or face certain multiversal consumption by the Void Collective. Goku listened to this exchange with growing clarity. His expanded perception revealed connections and possibilities previously unconsidered. Shadow Ki allowed him to perceive the spaces between stated positions, while his natural intuition suggested an alternative approach. There's another way, he stated firmly, drawing all attention. Explain, Kronos commanded, hourglass pupils fixed intently upon him. The Prof. ECY speaks of 15 flames becoming one fire, Goku began. I've integrated several key types already: Primal, God, Void, Shadow. With proper guidance, I could accelerate integration of remaining types without Malakai's corrupted pattern. Impossible, Luminous dismissed immediately. Complete integration requires centuries under optimal conditions. For conventional practitioners, Elysium noted thoughtfully, the Nexus candidate has already demonstrated accelerated harmonization capacity beyond established parameters. Even with exceptional ability, mastering 11 additional key types in limited temporal framework exceeds theoretical possibility, another observer objected. Unless, Vera stepped forward, kaleidoscope eyes spinning with sudden inspiration. The resonance chamber. Murmurs erupted throughout the council at her suggestion. Kronos raised a hand for silence. Explain, scholar. Vera's eyes spun faster with excitement. The resonance chamber in Celestial Archives W. As designed to amplify natural harmonic patterns across multiple frequency bands simultaneously. Originally constructed for academic study, but theoretically capable of accelerating integration for beings with natural affinity. Theoretically, Kronos emphasized skeptically. With 89.7% probability of success given Son Goku's established integration parameters. Vera insisted. His natural harmonic alignment suggests exceptional compatibility with chamber resonance amplification. The chamber hasn't been activated in millennia, Umbra noted, darkness swirling thoughtfully. Energy requirements exceed standard generation capacity. Quote, we could channel power from the council itself, Elysium suggested boldly. 15 observers representing 15 key types. Our combined essence could activate and sustain chamber functionality. You propose direct observer intervention? Kronos asked incredulously. Violation of foundational neutrality protocols. I propose survival, Elysium countered firmly. If prophecy fulfillment offers greater probability of multiversal preservation than continued neutrality, our purpose demands adaptation. The council chamber erupted in debate, some observers supporting immediate action. others warning of protocol violations, still others suggesting alternative approaches. Throughout this chaos, Goku remained centered, absorbing perspectives while formulating his own understanding. Enough, he finally said, his voice somehow cutting through the tumult without raising volume. All eyes turned to him, some surprised, others resentful of his interruption. A few openly curious about what this mortal would suggest during a mortal deliberation. The Void Collective is drawn to Nexus potential, the possibility of all 15 key types unified in single consciousness, Goku stated clearly. They feed on this potential. But what if potential became actuality? Would completed integration still attract them, or would it create counter-resonance naturally? Silence fell as the council considered his question. Several observers exchanged thoughtful glances. Theoretically, Vera ventured cautiously, completed integration would transform attractant NTIAL into actualized resonance, fundamentally altering interaction parameters with collective consciousness. In plain language, Kenna translated impatiently, they're attracted to the cake baking, not the finished product. Simplistic but essentially correct, Umbra acknowledged, darkness pulsing thoughtfully. Completed integration would generate natural counter-resonance field rendering call. Active consumption methodology ineffective. Then the answer is clear, Goku said with quiet determination. Activate the resonance chamber. Help me complete integration of all 15 key types. Not just to fulfill prophecy, but to create natural defense against the Void Collective. And Malachi? Kronos asked pointedly. His fragmentation accelerates. His threat remains regardless of collective status. Once I've achieved full integration, I'll address Malachi directly, Goku promised. Not through forced merger, but through stabilization assistance if possible. If not, he left the implication clear. The 15 observers conferred silently, complex energy patterns flowing between their thrones as they communicated beyond conventional perception. Finally, Kronos rose, signaling decision reached. The council approves activation of the resonance chamber, he announced formally. Integration acceleration for Nexus candidate Son Goku authorized under direct observer supervision. Relief washed through Goku's companions. Though Lyra's expression remained concerned. Activation preparations will require approximately 3 standard units, Kronos continued. During which Nexus candidate will undergo preliminary harmonization under specialist guidance. His rotating pupils fixed on the 4 women who had become Goku's mentors. Guardian Lyra, Shadow Walker Nyx, Elemental Kenna, and Scholar Vera will coordinate integration protocols with observer representatives. And Malachi's ultimatum? Lyra asked. Diversionary response protocols initiated, Kronos replied. Tempora, L displacement fields will create perception of extended deliberation while chamber activation proceeds. With formal efficiency, the council mobilized. Observers delegated responsibilities to various specialists while technical preparations began for chamber activation. Amid this controlled chaos, Goku found himself separated from the main activity, guided to a preparation area with his 4 companions. This is happening faster than I expected, he admitted once they were alone. Fear motivates even immortals, Nyx observed dryly. The Void Collective represents existential threat beyond conventional parameters. Vera was already reviewing technical specifications on her instruments. Resonance chamber functionality requires precise calibration to your specific energy signature. Preliminary harmonization will establish optimal frequency baselines for amplification targeting. In normal language, Goku requested. Kenna laughed. She means we need to tune you like an instrument before the big concert. The next few hours are crucial, Lyra explained more precisely. We'll work with you to establish conscious connection with each remaining key type. The chamber will then amplify those connections, accelerating integration that would normally take centuries. Painful process, Nyx warned without sugar-coating. Your consciousness will expand beyond conventional parameters. Your identity will undergo transformation beyond anything you've experienced thus far. Will I still be me? Goku asked, voicing the concern that had lingered since beginning this journey. The 4 women exchanged glances, none immediately answering, a hesitation that spoke volumes. Your core identity should remain intact, Vera finally offered. Theoretical models suggest fundamental personality matrix persists through integration. Though perspective and consciousness inevitably transform. You won't be exactly who you were, Lyra said more directly. But transformation doesn't mean replacement. You'll be more yourself, not less, expanded rather than changed. Goku nodded, accepting this truth. In many ways, his entire life had been a series of transformations, each new level of power bring. Jing expanded perception and responsibility. This would be greater in magnitude but not different in essence. I'm ready, he said simply. Preliminary harmonization took place in a circular chamber. WHO's walls shifted through prismatic patterns representing the 11 remaining key types Goku hadn't yet mastered. Each woman contributed specific expertise to the process. Vera established theoretical foundation, explaining each key type's fundamental nature and resonance pattern. Spirit Ki flowed through collective consciousness, allowing connection with all living things. Destruction Ki embodied entropy and release, breaking down what had completed its purpose. Creation Ki represented generative potential, the spark of new beginning. Lyra guided temporal perception exercises, helping Goku Sei Time Ki flowing through reality's sequential moments. Dimensional Ki connected parallel realities, maintaining boundaries while allowing controlled transference. Emotional Ki channeled feeling states into tangible energy, transforming subjective experience into objective force. Kenna focused on elemental applications, demonstrating how universal forces manifested through different key types. Su El Ki bridged material and spiritual realms, connecting life to afterlife. Harmonic Ki maintained balance between opposing forces, creating stability through complementary tension. Nyx provided shadow perspective throughout, helping Goku perceive the spaces between conventional understanding, the gaps where true insight often lurked. Chaos Ki embodied randomness and possibility, the unpredictable Fa. Cedar introducing novelty to established patterns. Primordial Ki represented the original energy from which all other types differentiated, the foundation underlying reality itself. As harmonization progressed, Goku's consciousness expanded incrementally. Each new understanding built upon previous integration, creating increasingly complex awareness. Shadow perception revealed connections between seemingly disparate key types. Time awareness showed how energy patterns evolved through sequential development. Elemental sensitivity demonstrated practical applications across different frequencies. Remarkable adaptation rate, Vera noted. Instruments monitoring his developing resonance patterns. Harmonic alignment establishing across multiple frequency bands simultaneously. His auras changing, Kenna observed. Tribal markings glowing in response to fluctuating energy fields. Multispectral qualities emerging beyond conventional visual range. Temporal echo forming, Lyra added, time shish. Ifting eyes tracking patterns invisible to others. His existence resonates backward and forward simultaneously, characteristic of advanced integration. Shadow boundaries dissolving appropriately, Nyx confirmed. Violet eyes perceiving dimensional aspects beyond material limitations. He maintains core identity while expanding peripheral awareness. Throughout this process, Goku remained centered in meditative focus, conscious of subtle transformations occurring within his being. Each key type resonated differently, some immediately compatible with his nature, others requiring deeper adaptation. Yet all felt increasingly familiar, as if he were remembering energies his consciousness had always known but forgotten. Time passed differently during harmonization, hours feeling like moments in some phases, seconds expanding to eternity in others. Throughout this fluctuating experience, the four women maintained constant guidance, their presence anchoring him as awareness expanded beyond conventional parameters. Finally, a subtle tone signaled completion of preliminary preparations. Goku opened his eyes, perceiving reality differently than before harmonization began. Energy patterns flowed visibly around every object and being. Temporal currents revealed past and potential futures simultaneously. Dimensional boundaries appeared as translucent membranes rather than solid barriers. Shadow, and light existed as complementary aspects rather than opposing forces. Preliminary harmonization complete, Vera announced, reviewing final readings. Resonance patterns established across all 15 frequency bands. Chamber activation can proceed on schedule. How do you feel? Lyra asked Goku directly, genuine concern evident beneath professional demeanor. Connected, he replied simply. Quote, like I'm seeing clearly for the first time. That's just preliminary awareness, Nyx cautioned. Full integration through chamber activation will expand consciousness exponentially beyond current parameters. Are you sure about this? Kenna asked seriously, competitive bravado momentarily set aside. Chamber activation cannot be reversed once initiated. The transformation will be permanent. Goku considered her question carefully. This moment represented final choice, commitment to becoming something beyond his current understanding. Yet despite uncertainty about what awaited, his path felt clear. I'm sure, he confirmed. Not just because of the current threat, but because this journey feels right. Like everything before was preparation for this step. A communication sphere materialize. Before further conversation could develop. Chamber activation preparations complete, came Kronos' formal announcement. Nexus candidate requested in Central Archive immediately. As they prepared to depart, Goku felt subtle shift in the energy between himself and the four women who had guided his development. What had begun as professional instruction had evolved into something deeper, connect. Tian transcending conventional relationships. Through expanded perception, he sensed complex emotions flowing beneath composed exteriors, concern, hope, attachment not easily articulated. Whatever happens next, he said, meeting each woman's gaze in turn, thank you. For your guidance, your wisdom, your trust. Something unspoken passed between them, acknowledgement of bonds formed through shared journey. Then professional focus returned as they escorted him toward his destiny. The celestial archives existed in dimensional space beyond the council chamber, a vast repository of knowledge accumulated since reality's inception. At its center stood the resonance chamber, a perfect sphere composed of material that seemed both solid and fluid simultaneously, its surface shifting with patterns representing all 15 key types. The council observers had arranged themselves in ceremonial formation around the chamber, each positioned before a crystalline amplifier aligned with their specific key type. Energy already flowed between them, preparing for unprecedented power channeling. Son Goku, Kronos acknowledged as they approached. Final confirmation required before activation. Do you willingly submit to complete integration acceleration with full understanding of irreversible transformation consequences? I do, Goku confirmed without hesitation. Be advised, Kronos continued formally. Integration through chamber activation has never been attempted on living subject. Theoretical models suggest 82% survival probability with successful integration. However, alternative outcomes include pattern dissolution, consciousness fragmentation, or identity diffusion. I understand the risks, Goku assured him, and accept them willingly. Kronos nodded once, hourglass pupils rotating with something like respect. Then we proceed. He gestured toward the chamber entrance, a circular opening that pulsed with invitation. Your guides may accompany you for initial placement. Then they must withdraw before activation sequence commences. The five of them entered the chamber together. Inside, the space seemed larger than external dimensions suggested, another dimensional peculiarity. The center floated a crystalline platform surrounded by 15 pillars, each glowing with energy representing a specific key type. Positioning is crucial, Vera explained, guiding Goku to the central platform. Your physical form must maintain perfect alignment with harmonic focal point during integration acceleration. As he stepped onto the platform, energy patterns beneath his feet responded. Immediately, shifting to match his specific resonance signature. The 15 pillars pulsed in sequence, establishing baseline connection with corresponding aspects of his developing awareness. Once activation begins, surrender to the process, Lyra instructed, her time-shifting eyes serious. Don't resist expansion, but maintain core identity focus. Remember who you are while becoming something more. Expect disorientation, Nyx added. Consciousness will expand beyond conventional parameters. Reality perception will transform fundamentally. Trust the process rather than fighting for familiar understanding. And when it gets intense, and it will get intense, remember why you're doing this, Kenna concluded, tribal markings glowing with empathetic response. Not for power, but for purpose. The moment for departure had arrived. Each woman stepped back from the platform, though something in their expressions suggested reluctance, and spoken concern about what the process might demand of him. I'll see you on the other side, Goku promised with characteristic optimism. As they turned to leave, Lyra paused unexpectedly. With sudden decisiveness, she stepped forward again, placing her ND against his chest directly over his heart. "Find your way back," she said softly, time-shifting eyes revealing emotion typically concealed behind Guardian Reserve. Then she turned and followed the others from the chamber. Alone on the platform, Goku centered himself for what was to come. Through expanded perception, he could sense massive energies gathering outside the chamber as observers channeled their essence into amplification crystals. The chamber itself began responding, surfaces flowing like liquid while maintaining structural integrity, patterns shifting with increasing complexity. Activation commencing, came Kronos' voice, seemingly from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Integration acceleration at 15% capacity, 30%, 60%. As power levels increased, the 15 pillars surrounding Goku began glowing with intensifying brilliance. Energy flowed from them toward him in spiraling patterns, each representing a specific key type seeking harmonization with his being. At first, the sensation was manageable, similar to preliminary exercises but with greater intensity. Then as power approached maximum capacity, reality itself began to transform around him. Boundaries dissolved between physical form and energy pattern. Consciousness expanded beyond conventional limitations. Perception transcended sequential time, experiencing past, present, future simultaneously. Identity maintained core essence while encompassing exponentially greater awareness. Each key type integrated sequentially yet simultaneously, paradoxical experience beyond normal comprehension. Spirit Key connected him with all living consciousness across multiversal expanse. Destruction Key revealed entropy's essential role in cosmic renewal. Creation Key showed generative potential underlying apparent endings. Time Key expanded perception beyond linear progression, revealing reality's sequential nature as perspective rather than absolute truth. Dimensional Key Disso, LVED boundaries between parallel existences, showing infinite variations flowing from choice points. Elemental Key demonstrated fundamental forces as expressions of unified field rather than separate phenomena. Emotional Key transmuted feeling states into tangible energy, emotions becoming force rather than reaction. Soul Key bridged material and spiritual realms, connecting life and afterlife as complementary aspects of continuous existence. Harmonic Key balanced opposing forces through complementary tension, creating stability through dynamic equilibrium. Chaos Key introduced unpredictability within ordered systems, ensuring novelty and evolution through randomness. Primordial Key revealed foundation underlying differentiated types, the original energy from which all others emerged. With each integration, consciousness expanded exponentially. Identity maintained core essence while incorporating vastly greater awareness. The being who had entered the chamber as Son Goku still existed at center. But consciousness now encompassed understanding beyond conventional parameters. Outside perception, the chamber pulsed with blinding radiance as integration approached completion. Observers channeled unprecedented power levels, their combined essence amplifying natural harmonic resonance beyond theoretical limitations. Final integration phase commencing, Kronos announced, voice strained from channeling effort. Primordial Key harmonization initiating. As the 15th and final type began integration, something unexpected occurred. Rather than sequential addition like previous types, Primordial Key triggered exponential convergence, all 14 previously integrated types suddenly harmonizing at fundamental level previously unachieved. The chamber's radiance intensified beyond material limitations, energy patterns shifting from visible spectrum into dimensional frequencies imperceptible to conventional senses. For beings observing externally, it appeared as though reality itself folded inward around the chamber before expanding outward in prismatic waves. Inside, Goku experienced transformation beyond description, consciousness expanding beyond individual identity while paradoxically becoming more distinctly himself. The 15 key types no longer existed as separate energies but as aspects of unified awareness, flames becoming single fire as prophecy had foretold. When integration completed, the chamber's brilliance gradually subsided. Energy patterns stabilized into new configuration never before observed, perfect harmonic resonance across all 15 frequency bands simultaneously. The chamber entrance reopened, revealing anxious observers waiting to see what emerged. First came swirling energy in prismatic patterns, then gradually coalescing into recognizable form. The being who stepped forth appeared physically similar to Son Goku who had entered, yet fundamentally transformed. His form radiated subtle luminescence that shifted through spectral patterns representing all 15 key types in perfect harmony. Eyes that had once been dark now contained multiversal depth, galaxies spinning within iris patterns. Movement occurred with liquid grace transcending conventional physics, each gesture rippling through reality at multiple levels simultaneously. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonic overtones that resonated at multiple frequencies simultaneously. Integration complete. Vera's instruments immediately overloaded from attempting to measure energy patterns beyond their design parameters. Extraordinary, she exclaimed, kaleidoscope eyes spinnin'. G with academic excitement despite technical failure. Complete harmonic convergence across all 15 frequency bands simultaneously. Theoretical impossibility achieved in practical manifestation. Kenna approached cautiously, tribal markings responding to his transformed energy signature. Goku, is it still you in there? A smile of familiar warmth spread across his transformed features. Yes and no, he answered honestly. I'm still Goku, but I'm also more than I was. Expanded rather than replaced. Nyx studied him with those penetrating violet eyes, seeing beyond physical transformation to the consciousness beneath. The Nexus has awakened, she stated simply. Prophecy fulfilled. Lyra stepped forward, time-shifting eyes perceiving the temporal currents flowing around his transformed being. You found your way back, she said softly, relief evident beneath professional composure. Before further exchange could develop, reality distorted several meters away, dimensional barriers tearing open in familiar pattern. Malachi stepped through, his fragmented condition having deteriorated catastrophically. His form barely maintained coherence, energy patterns visibly unraveling even as he struggled to project stability. Too late, he snarled upon seeing Goku's transformed state. The council chose acceleration over convergence. His fractured laughter held desperate edge. Matters not. The collective comes. Without unified response, consumption proceeds regardless of your pretty transformation. As if summoned by his words, reality fractured at multiple points throughout the archive. Void entities emerged, not merely wraiths like before, but greater manifestations. Massive tentacular appendages composed of negative space reached through tiers in dimensional fabric. Crystalline entities whose geometries violated conventional physics materialized between reality layers. Shadow forms whose non-Euclidean structures caused perceptual distortion simply by existing. The Void Collective, Chronos identified grimly. Primary manifestation breach. Chaos erupted as observers and guardians mobilized defensive protocols. Energy barriers formed around critical archive sections. Containment fields attempted to isolate dimensional ruptures. Counter-resonance generators activated to destabilize void entity coherence. Amid this desperate defense, Malachi laughed, fragmented sound echoing with bitter triumph. See how your precious protocols fail. The collective consumes all potential, even actualized Nexus energy. Goku observed these developments with newfound perception. Through integrated awareness, he could see patterns invisible to others, how the void entities connected to reality fabric, where dimensional boundaries remained vulnerable, how energy flowed between manifestations. They're not targeting random locations, he realized, voice carrying harmonic certainty. They're establishing geometric formation for complete dimensional inversion. Inversion. Vera's kaleidoscope eyes widened with horrified understanding. That would collapse multiversal barriers entirely. Reality itself would be consumed, Malachi finished, his fragmented form pulsing with desperate energy. Unless, he fixed his deteriorating gaze on Goku. Even now, convergence offers only possibility. My fragmentation coupled with your integration, harmonic counterpoint creating perfect defensive resonance. Our catastrophic acceleration, Nyx countered. Your pattern corruption would contaminate completed integration. Choice remains, Malachi insisted as his form deteriorated further. Convergence or consumption. Goku studied the broken nexus with compassionate perception. Through integrated awareness, he could see beyond Malachi's current corruption to original pattern Ben. Eth, the being who had once sought understanding before fear twisted purpose toward power. There is another way, he said, stepping forward. Not convergence, but harmonization. Not merging patterns, but healing fragmentation. Impossible, Malachi dismissed bitterly. My pattern degradation exceeds restoration parameters. Structural integrity fails beyond recovery threshold. Under conventional parameters, yes, Goku acknowledged. But Nexus integration transcends conventional limitations. As void entities continued materializing throughout the archive, Goku made his decision. With flowing grace that transcended normal movement, he approached Malachi directly. Around them, battles raged between observers and encroaching collective manifestations, energy discharges illuminating desperate defense against consumption. "What are you doing?" Lyra called in warning, time blades flashing as she fought nearby entities. "What the prophecy requires," Goku replied with calm certainty. Standing before Malachi's deteriorating form, Goku raised his hands, not to attack but in offering. "Your fragmentation occurred because integration was forced rather than natural. The Council's fear prevented proper guidance. Your response to abandonment created further corruption. But beneath broken pattern, original harmony remains possible." "Too late," Malachi insisted, though desperate hope flickered beneath bitter resignation. "Pattern collapse imminent. Critical failure threshold exceeded." "Time is relative," Goku replied with gentle humor. "Hadn't you heard?" Without further hesitation, he laced his hands on either side of Malachi's unstable form. Prismatic energy flowed from his integrated being into the broken nexus, not merging patterns but reconstructing fundamental frequency alignment. The process required precision beyond conventional capability. Each fractured energy pattern within Malachi's being needed specific harmonization, corruption identified, original resonance restored. Fragmentation reversed through targeted application of complementary frequencies. For observers, the process appeared as swirling prismatic light encompassing both beings, Goku's integrated perfectio. Temporarily extending to include Malachi's broken form. Within this energy cocoon, molecular-level reconstruction occurred, fundamental pattern restoration proceeding atom by atom, energy strand by energy strand. Meanwhile, the Void Collective's invasion intensified. Dimensional ruptures expanded as more powerful entities emerged. Archive defenses began failing against overwhelming manifestation pressure. The geometric pattern of breaches approached completion, inversion process nearing activation threshold. "We cannot maintain containment," an observer called in warning. Inversion parameters approaching critical. Within the energy cocoon, Goku maintained absolute focus despite chaotic battles surrounding them. Malachi's restoration required complete attention, each fragmented pattern reconstructed with precise application of complementary frequencies from his own integrated awareness. Gradually, impossibly, Malachi's deterioration stabilized. Fragmentation reversed as original harmony. Patterns reasserted structural integrity. Molecular coherence re-established across fundamental frequency bands. The broken nexus began healing, not merely temporarily stabilized but fundamentally restored. As restoration neared completion, Goku's awareness expanded beyond immediate process to encompass larger conflict. The Void Collective had nearly completed dimensional breach geometry, inversion countdown approaching final sequence. Even the combined power of all 15 observers proved insufficient against coordinated consumption strategy. Goku understood with perfect clarity what must happen next. As Malachi's restoration completed, he withdrew supporting energy gradually, ensuring newly stabilized patterns maintained independent integrity. "What did you do?" Malachi asked in wonder, examining his restored form with disbelief. Gone were fracturing energy patterns and deteriorating molecular structure. Though not fully integrated like Goku, his being had returned to natural harmony. Stability. Corruption replaced with balanced resonance. "Remembered who you were beneath who you became," Goku answered simply. The rest was just energy application. Before further exchange could develop, reality shuddered around them as inversion geometry reached completion. Dimensional barriers began folding inward, reality fabric collapsing toward consumption singularity. Too late, Chronos called in warning. Inversion sequence activated, containment protocols failing. Not too late, Goku countered with harmonic certainty. Just the necessary moment. With flowing grace transcending conventional movement, he rose toward the archive's center, positioning himself at precise focal point where dimensional ruptures converged. Around him, reality continued folding inward as inversion accelerated. "What are you doing?" Lyra called urgently. "That's inversion epicenter. Nothing can survive direct exposure." "Surviving isn't the objective," Goku replied calmly. Counter-resonance is. With that cryptic statement, he extended his awareness fully, consciousness expanding beyond individual limitation to encompass multiversal pattern. The 15 integrated key types within his being harmonized at fundamental level, creating unified frequency that precisely countered void collective consumption methodology. From his centered position, prismatic energy expanded outward in geometrical Y-perfect pattern, meeting inversion wave with exactly opposing resonance. Where these energies met, reality stabilized, dimensional fabric reinforcing rather than collapsing. The void entities reacted with immediate alarm, their consumption methodology encountering resistance beyond previous experience. Major manifestations began withdrawing toward dimensional ruptures, abandoning inversion geometry, as counter-resonance disrupted their fundamental pattern. Observing this unexpected development, Malachi understood complementary opportunity. With newly stabilized resonance, he positioned himself at secondary focal point, generating supporting counter-harmonic that reinforced Goku's primary pattern. Together then, he called, energy flowing in perfect complementary wave. Symmetry requires balance. The combined counter-resonance expanded throughout archive space, then beyond, reaching dimensional ruptures across multiple reality layers simultaneously. Where this harmonic energy touched void manifestations, consumption methodology reversed, entities forced to release already absorbed energy before retreating through rapidly closing breaches. Throughout the multiverse, reality stabilized as inversion collapsed. Dimensional ruptures sealed from within rather than without, fundamental pattern integrity restored through harmonic reinforcement rather than external containment. When the loss T-breach closed and counter-resonance completed its multiversal circuit, profound silence fell across the archive. Observers and guardians stood in stunned disbelief, witnessing impossible salvation where destruction had seemed inevitable. Goku descended slowly, prismatic energy settling into more contained radiance around his form. Malachi approached cautiously, his restored being emanating Balin. CED harmony where fragmentation had previously dominated. You could have eliminated me, he noted quietly. Absorption would have been simpler than restoration. Simpler isn't always better. Goku R. EPLIED with characteristic warmth beneath harmonic resonance. Your journey was corrupted by fear, both yours and the Council's. But your purpose wasn't wrong, just your methods. Chronos approached, her glass pupils rotating with uncharacteristic uncertainty. The prophecy, he said simply. Both interpretations manifested simultaneously. Salvation through balanced wisdom rather than power alone. As intended, perhaps, Elysium suggested, childlike form radiating rainbow joy. The Nexus awakens beyond desire, not seeking power for domination but integration for harmony. The four women who had guided Goku's journey throughout approached cautiously, each perceiving his transformed being through different specialized awareness. Harmonic completion beyond theoretical parameters, Vera noted, I.N.S. Truman's having recovered sufficiently for basic readings. Perfect resonance across all 15 frequency bands simultaneously. Yet core identity maintained, Kenna added, tribal markings responding to his integrated energy signature. Still recognizably Goku beneath the transcendent pattern. Shadow and light in perfect balance, Nyx observed with quiet respect. Neither dominating nor submitting, but complementing. Lyra simply studied him with those time-shifting eyes, seeing temporal currents flowing around his transformed being. You exceeded the prophecy, she finally said. Not just mastering 15 key types, but understanding their unified purpose. Goku smiled, an expression still characteristically warm despite harmonic resonance that accompanied it. I had excellent teachers. As archive systems restored normal function and repair teams addressed damage from collective incursion, the Council convened impromptu assessment. Observers who had centuries ago abandoned hope of positive prophecy fulfillment now faced unprecedented reality, Nexus awakening achieving multiversal salvation rather than destruction. The question remains, Chronos noted as formal proceedings concluded, what happens next? No protocols exist for successfully integrated Nexus consciousness. Goku considered this reasonable question carefully. Through expanded awareness, he perceived infinite possibilities branching from current moment, paths leading toward different futures based on choices yet unmade. I return home, he finally answered, surprising many who had assumed transcendent const. Eousness would abandon previous connections. My journey began seeking understanding, not escape from who I was. But you've transformed beyond conventional parameters, an observer objected. Your consciousness encompasses awareness beyond mortal limitation. True, Goku acknowledged with easy humor. But transformation doesn't erase foundation. I'm still who I've always been, just with expanded perspective. What about your power? Another observer asked warily. Integrated mastery of 15 key types creates capability beyond conventional containment. Power without purpose is meaningless, Goku replied simply. I sought understanding to protect what matters: family, friends, innocent life throughout existence. That hasn't changed. And the Void Collective? Chronos inquired. Their consumption attempt failed, but existence continues. They may return with adapted methodology. Then we'll be ready, Goku answered confidently. Not through fear and restriction, but through balanced preparation. His gaze moved to Malachi, whose restored being now emanated stable harmony. Starting with proper guidance for those who show Nexus potential, rather than suppression born of fear. Malachi nodded in solemn agreement. I'll assist monitoring dimensional boundaries, using restored awareness to identify potential breaches before manifestation completes. As formal proceedings concluded, Goku found moment for private conversation with the 4 women who had guided his journey from beginning to transcendent completion. What will you do now? Vera asked, kaleidoscope eyes spinning with genuine curiosity. Your integrated consciousness contains understanding beyond anything previously documented. The research potential alone. I'll visit occasionally, Goku promised with gentle amusement. Your archives could probably use updating after all this. Kenna approached next, tribal markings glowing with competitive energy despite events witnessed. Don't think transcendence gets you out of that rematch you promised, she warned, though warmth beneath gruff exterior belied genuine connection formed throughout shared journey. Wouldn't dream of it, Goku assured her with characteristic grin. Though we might need to find somewhere sturdy. Nyx remained slightly apart, violet eyes assessing his transformed being with characteristic directness. Shadow acknowledges your balance, she said formally. Then added with surprising vulnerability, few have walked the between and returned with such perfect integration of darkness and light. I had an excellent guide, Goku replied sincerely. Without your teaching, I might have rejected shadow rather than embracing it as essential aspect. Finally, Lyra approached, professional guardian demeanor momentarily set aside. You're really leaving? She asked quietly, time-shifting eyes revealing complex emotions beneath composed exterior. For now, he answered honestly. But time is relative, isn't it? Especially for those who perceive beyond conventional limitations. Understanding passed between them, acknowledgement of connection transcending physical proximity. Through expanded awareness, distance and separation held different meaning than before integration. Besides, he added with characteristic warmth, I have a feeling my journey will bring me back to the academy occasionally. Certain connections aren't easily broken. As preparations for departure finalized, Goku stood once more before the Council of Observers. No longer summons or judgment, but formal acknowledgement of transcendent achievement. The Nexus awakens, Chronos stated formally. Rotating pupils reflecting something like respectful acceptance. Prophecy fulfilled not through dominance but harmony. The Council acknowledges your achievement, Son Goku, and grants unrestricted movement between dimensional boundaries. Thank you, Goku replied simply. Though I suspect such boundaries hold different meaning now anyway. With final farewells exchanged, he prepared for transition homeward. The 4 women who had become far more than mentors stood nearby, each having chosen to accompany him to dimensional threshold. Ready for your next challenge? Kenna asked with characteristic directness. Explaining to your friends how you've changed. Goku laughed, the sound carrying harmonic resonance that somehow enhanced rather than diminished its genuine warmth. I've returned from transformative journeys before. Though I admit this one might require more explanation than most. As Dimensional Gateway activated for his return to Universe 7, Goku turned one final time to those who had guided his unprecedented journey. This isn't an ending, he said with certainty born of expanded awareness. Just the beginning of something new. With that promise lingering in multiversal currents, Son Goku, transformed beyond conventional parameters yet fundamentally unchanged in essential nature, stepped through dimensional threshold toward home. Behind him, prophecy fulfilled continued generating ripples throughout existence. 15 flames unified into single fire. Nexus awakened beyond desire, balance maintained through wisdom rather than power alone. The journey of mastery had completed its first phase. What followed would write new chapters across multiversal expanse, stories yet untold, adventures beyond imagination, connections transcending conventional understanding. For the Nexus had awakened, and all boundaries would never be quite the same again. Blank, blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.